How's it? I'm Honan,
I'm Oliver.
and today we are talking about a literal goddess IU, the only god I adhere to. I'm just gonna start like I did with Sunmi last time, guys. Basic information before we really go into topics. IU was born Lee Ji-eun, May 16th, 1993. 1 month in the same year as me, before me. 1 month
Yeah,
before me. Just one
she
month
she's
older.
just about your senior.
Do they
Mm.
count it in Korean culture if it's like that small of a difference?
No, it's the same year as you'd be same year friends. For
Yeah.
me, I'm January '94, so she's like she's Nuna just.
She was born in, I hope I say this right, Sonjeon-dong.
I mean, you said that so interestingly. I'm not even sure what you were trying to say.
It's a Sonjeon-dong, Seoul, South Korea. So it's like Sonjejeong.
Songjeong, yeah,
So okay, so you say it properly.
Songjeongdong in Songdong district, yes,
Have you
which
been
is
to where she's born?
uh, I
I don't.
guess it's like pretty central in Seoul, like, but I can't think of necessarily of like. Oh, it's in Song. Oh, I have a friend who lives in that area in Songsi. Okay, cool.
So it's
Okay,
like central of Seoul. It sounds like central city
yeah, it's
location.
like it's not quite like downtown, but it's like right on the riverbank on the right hand side of the
She
northern
she
part.
has such a cool name, like actual name. I was like curious if her IU name was a play on it at all, but it's just meaning you and I become one through music or whatever.
Yes,
Yeah, it sounds like
it's
that, and the company came up with the name.
yeah, and then it does have the word the parts of her name can mean like silver, sort of, because un can be silver. But it's I think from Hunter, like the Chinese characters, I think T is like intellectual, like yeah, intelligence, wisdom. So that, and
Her
then
name just describes her perfectly, or
un
something.
is favor. So you can translate it meaning like she will be intelligent and favored or something like that. Yeah,
Which yeah, makes sense.
yeah,
Checks out.
yeah.
I was trying to think of what is like the she has so much we could talk about that I was like thinking what is an interesting starting point.
Mm,
I feel like one of the more interesting places to start is the fact that she was churned down 20 times from 20 auditions.
mm.
Like, and it's like how and who are these 20 different companies that are failing IU auditions?
Yeah, I mean, well, I guess it's important to note as well that she debuted really young, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
she was 15 when she debuted. Um, and I think she definitely wasn't the confident, charismatic person that we know today, right? Like she
Yeah.
was, she wasn't sure of herself, and her early life experiences definitely shaped that. And she had some pretty like tough times even just going into these auditions. I think one story I remember is that her grandma sold her like family jewelry or something, like
Mm.
priceless, well, not priceless, obviously they had a price, but heirlooms and stuff in order to pay for an audition. Um, and then it turned out it was a scam.
Yeah,
And
she got
just some dude
scammed.
like took the money or something. Yeah,
It's crazy.
it's honestly remarkable that she managed to make it at all, let alone get to the height that she's at.
Yeah, every article I was reading and stuff about her early life was really depressing. Like, because her
Yeah.
parents went into like a bad bankruptcy, like financial debt, from what I was reading, and then they had to have her live with her grandma, with the
Yeah.
cousin and brother all living with the grandma. And then she described that as like extreme poverty. Like even there were like cockroaches in the house and stuff like that. And it was
Yeah.
like,
And they used to have to skip meals and stuff.
yeah,
It was rough for her. Um and that, that's that kind of situation certainly builds character, right? And that it certainly meant that as she grew up, she was a very strong philanthropist. We can talk more about that later, but I think that's certainly something that shaped her early experiences. And yeah, it's the fact she didn't give up despite everything. Yeah.
Yeah, she had a thing. She had a quote like where people were asking her about her difficult debut, and she was like, "Nothing's as difficult as poverty." So it was like she was like that. That kind of shaped her mindset of like, "Well, this is not as hard as what I've already lived through,"
Mm.
basically. And a lot of her quotes, like you were saying early on, are very. She doesn't have like that confidence she has now, where she's like really cool and confident. IU today, like when I was reading like some early quotes, she had one where she said basically she didn't feel like her fame was gonna last, or this is just like a small moment or whatever. And then it's like, look at how many years she's been getting number 1 songs
Yeah.
and albums. It's like, she's so
Well,
established now. It's like,
yeah. And she didn't debut to great success by any stretch of the imagination. Um, I guess we should just go in and talk about her her start, her career,
yeah, because her
how it
debut was the
began.
Growing Up album, right? And
Um, no, her debut was Lost and Found.
okay, so before that album was even
Yeah, that's
released.
an
Okay,
EP. Yeah. Growing Up was her first full album.
gotcha.
Um, yeah, so Lost and Found was her first release, and it was her introduction as a singer. But the title track Mia or Lost Child, as it's known, is like I think criminally underrated in her discography as a whole. She herself doesn't perform it very often, if at all, anymore. Um, of course, this is all at the time where she is making songs that she wasn't making the songs herself. She wasn't really, it wasn't involved in it at all. Whereas after a few years, she started getting involved in her album making herself. But I think the reaction that she got was pretty harsh for a 15-year-old
Yeah.
because people said that she was fat and that she wasn't pretty enough and stuff like that. And that obviously, and also you could tell that she was so nervous that her voice was unstable at times when she was singing. Um, but I think it's a great song. I think it's a really, really good song. Um, and it's a shame that she kind of looks back on it so negatively. Yeah. But
Yeah, when I was reading that she had like insults hurled at her during her debut, I was like, just a 15-year-old girl, just who are these people just hurling insults at her is crazy to me. But it it was interesting to read that I had assumed until I had started reading it a lot more that she from the start had been a part of her writing process, but I
mm-hmm.
have it written. Chat-Shire was the first time she was credited as like the sole lyricist and composer of her own album.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, and we'll get to Chat-Shire when we when we get there because that one has some interesting stories behind it. But yeah, but she her second album was Growing Up, which is what you mentioned, which had the single, the most known song from it is Boo,
Mm.
which is, um, I think if you watch a stage of it now, and it's the same with the album that followed, which has Marshmallow. Like these songs are so cute and
Mm-hmm.
like bright and bubbly. I mean, it's fitting for her at the time when she was like 16, 17.
Yeah.
It's not like it's out of it just feels out of character now for what we know her as because we see her as quite a serious
Yeah, and she's
singer
so
songwriter.
cool now. So it's like
Yeah,
the
very
cute style
chic.
is like, yeah.
But here it's like, this is certainly the period in which she felt like an idol, like the closest that I think she's ever been to being an idol, and she didn't have the idol life in the same way in her early days. Like she wasn't trained as an idol, um, but there were elements of her life which I think were idol like, especially in the early years. But what you'll notice in the period between her debut and growing up is that she loses a lot of weight. You really can tell like the difference from the stage. I mean, the difference in time I think is about 7 months or so. I can't remember off the top of my head. So like late 2008 to I think September 2008 to like April 2009 or something like that. But you could, in that time, she dropped a lot of weight, and she had a completely different vibe. Because Mia is like is a serious and sad song, and she performed that just standing there, sometimes with an orchestra behind her, which is I think is part of her music and has been part of her music. Like almost every release, there's been like orchestras involved, which is really cool. Yeah. But she just stands there and sings, and which is great, and you still see that today. But then with Boo and Marshmallow, she's on there doing full like choreography. She's dancing and stuff like that. And I mean, that's never been her strong suit. She does do it, but it's not her. It's not what you think of when you think about it. You
definitely don't think of choreography when you think about it.
That was more of an idol vibe for her. But it took until 2010 for her to really have like her big blow up. Because we had IU I'm, which was a few months after growing up, which didn't do massively well. And then I think people preferred Boo. But then in over a year later, in fact, we had Real, which was December 2010, and more than quintupled her previous sales. And that was led by Good Day, which I feel like is the first song that we really have to dive into because Good Day I think is.
Before we dive into that song, I read her say about her rough debut. She quoted about like how she was glad she actually had that start because it gave her like the staff she has, and like she was talking about how she's super close to the staff that she has because of that rough start that she had, and like how they grew together to her success and everything. Yeah. So she's saying the really important people in her life are kind of like important to her because of that rough debut that she had.
Yeah, and the situation that she was in at Lowen, as it was called then.
Yeah, now it's Cacao or something, right?
Yeah, well, it was always a subsidiary of Cacao, but it's certainly a different a different style of company at the time, I guess. It wasn't an idol agency, and I'm trying to think of what other singers they had. I know that that Fiesta debuted under Lowen, so they did have that aspect to them.
And imagining if IU had debuted in a girl group, I just don't think it would have been so weird.
I mean, there was like the Lowen like family special album or whatever where IU and Fiesta did a song together, and it's hilarious to think that she could. I feel like there must have been that thought process at some point among the Lowen hierarchy, like, oh, hey, we have trainees, we're going to debut a girl group soon, let's put this 15-year-old when she's a few years older, let's put her in that.
Yeah, I read about there was a quote from their entertainment company and whoever was like running it at the time where they said there was consideration to put her in a girl group, but then someone had basically said along the lines of like, her voice is too good or something like that.
Yeah.
And then changed their mind like on it.
And I kind of get where they're coming from that. I think it's not obviously to discredit the quality of singing in any idol group, not let alone Fiesta, but it's like her voice is such a particularly clear tone. I feel like it would always kind of come through. It would either come through more on a mix always, or it would get drowned out.
Yeah,
and it's like neither of those outcomes is particularly desirable.
In a group, visually and singing wise, it would just be like everyone else and I. You know what I mean? Like it would just be too hard for me to imagine.
I don't know about visually. I mean, have you looked at Fiesta?
No, I understand. but singing wise, for sure. When she sings, it would be so distinct.
But actually, having said that, I would. Given the kinds of concepts that Fiesta got into,
now you wish it happened.
Oh my lord! I couldn't imagine how you doing some of that, like the choreography where they like is it the I think it's You're Pitiful, where they have to like stand up on a chair and like fully just like push their ass back. Oh my goodness.
I just can't see it. I to me, she's just. I mean, it's just too hard to imagine now because she's so unique and distinctive on her own merit or whatever. It's just too hard to imagine. I'm just now
However,
changing this to full screen.
I would love to see like just like a collab project or something where she just pops up in a group for a laugh.
I've said it so many times. Taeyeon, IU, Sunmi.
No,
let's get it going.
I
Perfect
imagine her
group.
coming into like an existing group, like on Queendom. One of the groups is like, oh yeah, we have like some members are out with COVID. Like WJSN are like, oh yeah, we have some members out with COVID, and Bona's on her doing her drama, and Daewon's out with Daewon, one of our main vocalists, is out with anxiety. We brought in a substitute. I hope you guys don't mind. And then this freaking IU comes in.
Like... IU doing a WJSN song. Now there's something like I'm trying to imagine.
Oh, I'd be into it. She could do Are you doing pantomime? My life would be made, honestly.
You're grasping too far there.
I'm too far gone. You have to reel me back.
I suppose now we should get back to, we were going to start on Good Day, which was like the first, I guess, major hit.
And a fucking ridiculous hit as well. Like, yeah. I mean, well, how do you feel about Good Day? What's your opinion on it as a song?
So for me, it's tricky because, like, for me, when I enjoy IU's catalog the most is from, like, Palette to now.
Like 2017
has all my favorite songs, and like to me that is IU, like the IU I know. So when I do go back to some of that early stuff, I'm always kind of like, huh, this is IU. Okay, like when it's very different vibe to me than the IU who to me is like almost Hotel de Luna, like chic, cool, like I'm here and like, you know, just a badass kind of thing. But yeah, I do enjoy the early music as well, just not as much, not nearly as much as I do the later IU.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree. I do really like the instrumental and the kind of style that she was doing then, and like I say, it's a style that she certainly carried on through her later work as well. Though obviously she has explored all kinds of different styles, but that kind of like grand sounding, like musical like kind of atmosphere, right? Like where you have these like horns and there's strings, and it's what I mentioned this before, but I always love how it's like they're real strings, real horns, you know, like she has a band in there playing that. It's not just a plug-in. Like I love that because it just gives it that grand feeling, you know. And Good Day is obviously is iconic, and it's certainly a song that she will never separate from, even though she herself has said that she doesn't like singing it because she doesn't like the famous triple at the end, that triple octave that she belts, because it hurts her voice, and she doesn't like having to do it.
It is not an easy thing to do,
not at all. And we've seen countless people cover that with varying degrees of success. The same can be said for other songs that we'll talk about later as well. Anyone who's seen Girls Planet will know what we're talking about there. But yeah, like what it did for her career, I think it's impossible to understand. I mean, but Billboard in 2019 said that it was the greatest song of the decade, for the greatest K-pop song of the decade. And that was in 2019, so like they could have said it was fucking Fake Love or DNA or whatever, right?
Yeah,
but
they gave the whole like 2010 to 2020. That was it. Like that was.
They say Good Day released in 2010 was.
Fair
I
enough.
mean, hell, and then you know that's beating out stuff like Genie and all kinds of great songs. Obviously, you could go through the decade of K-pop; it would take forever, but. Did
that make a lot of BTS fans angry? I just have to know.
Oh, inevitably, yeah. But it's kind of hard to argue against, even though, like I said, it's not in my top 5 or probably even top 10 of IU songs. But it's hard to fight that. And I have to admit, and it's Good Day and You and I hear still in Korea like all the time. Like I mean, you hear her recent songs as well, but you're as likely to hear those two as you are to hear Lilac or Strawberry Moon or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you go in like when I hear it on in a store or something, I can't help myself, but
there's always that song I feel like for an artist, because like Radiohead has Creep, which is like very synonymous with them, and like they like everyone knows that song. It's like, dude, yeah, Creep, but they hate it, you know?
Right.
Like...
But I do feel like the difference there is that Creep is so far removed from what Radiohead's music is about, or has been about for the last like decade, right? Whereas for IU, you can sort of draw a lot of parallels between the music of Good Day and the music that she has now.
Yeah,
it's also really funny because of like when you actually, I realized this when I heard it I was in a candy store, and it came on, and I realized that the lyrics like na na na, Opaya, and I'm like, wow, I don't think I would hear IU saying Opaya in like a cute way like that. Like
that's what's the strangest part of the earlier catalog. Yeah, like you're saying, hearing something like that from IU and then looking at IU now, it's like which fair enough, they are like two completely different people, I would say, you know, that now like we were saying early on, she didn't have that confidence in herself, whereas now she seems just like her whole aura is like, I'm a badass that's confident, you know, like it's a completely different aura of person that you get these days.
Yeah, that's fair. I think what's really important about it as well is that it let the company do more with her in terms of where they were able to push her and the money they could put behind her and stuff. Because even though I have to check, I don't know exactly when Lowen lost their
when they changed to just being called Cacao Entertainment. So it's like Cacao now.
So Lowen was a separate company and Cacao bought it. So Cacao bought Lowen in 2016, January 2016. So Lowen was still independent at this point. So they didn't have the money that Cacao has.
So it's like 1 year before Palette comes out, I think. Like...
Yes, yeah. So they weren't rich, and Good Day made them rich. But back then it sold 90,000 physical copies of the album, which is really, really good for the 2010.
Yeah. She built that company. Like, I mean, that company's built on her back, basically.
And like for a parallel, like her debut sold 3,000. The EP before that, Growing Up, sold 22,000. The EP before that.
It's just think of those beginning numbers and think of now where she's charting #1 like every time she releases.
What we can look at, is digitals. Yeah, so the digital sales for Good Day in South Korea is 4,450,508. It was top of the Gaon chart for 5 weeks.
Which is the one that Psy had to have Gangnam Style to. It was from You and I from Last Fantasy.
You and I,
yeah. She was on there for like 6 weeks or whatever, and it wasn't until like Gangnam Style came out, which fair enough, the whole world was taken a storm by Gangnam Style, but it's like.
But actually, Good Day did have the record for the most weeks at #1 in total. And that record was only beaten in 2018. Can you guess what song beat it?
Yes, Dynamite.
No. Dynamite.
I'm just joking. I know it didn't come out then.
My inner army came out. Like, how dare you? I'll have you know that the 2018 was when they released Love Yourself. Answer. 2018 was fake.
Me just forgetting the last 4 years of my life.
It was not a BTS song. It was a boy group, but it was not a BTS song.
Boy group, Big Bang or EXO? It had to be then. I'm feeling.
Yeah, Big Bang weren't releasing much in 2018, and it wasn't EXO either.
Super Junior?
I wish. No, it was Icon. Love Scenario when it was conquering. Yeah, that topped it. But
that's a good song, but yeah,
that song was like crack in Korea, honestly, especially among students. like, and it had to be banned in schools because kids would keep singing it.
Oh, so I was thinking of the real song. So Love Snare is the one, yeah. Ba da 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 da
Yeah,
da 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 da. Okay, yeah. I mean, it is super catchy.
yeah, great song, great song.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like you mentioned you and I, and it's battle with Gangnam Style, but you and I was what followed this. You and I was the follow up to
And
Good Day,
and or sorry, Fantasy Last
Last Fantasy.
Fantasy was the follow up album, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So well, the record this one had was it being number one on Billboard Korea's K-pop Hot 100,
Hmm.
the longest running number one song on the chart. But then yeah, Gangnam Style. It was tied with Gangnam Style, and then was broken by Return by none other than Lee Sung Gi of everyone, which is pretty funny. But yeah, so you and I is again just one of those songs that you can't ever disassociate from IU, and this really was where you start to see her like the lore, the story, not really lore, it's not the same, but there's like a storyline.
Trying to
um
remember the music video.
think her in front of like a giant clock
Yeah, yeah,
in the
yeah. That's the
background.
gears churning behind
Yeah,
her, right? Yeah. So that
and
video is
she's
really
doing like a lot
distinct.
of
I
pop
remember
stuff.
that one now. Yeah, she
Yeah,
actually does like choreography in that one.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. There's a dance. There's the same with Good Day. There's like is minimal
Mm.
dancing, but there is like a dance. She doesn't just stand on stage and do it. She does do some stuff. Um, yeah. So you and I again, we can just see the escalation that came. This was almost a year later as well. I think about 10 or 11 months later. But whereas Good Day was 4.4 million, this hit 7 million.
Yeah.
Like it just the numbers that it was doing is ridiculous.
No, it's crazy.
And
That's a
what
big
it was
jump.
also what they were noticing as well is that she was starting to do well in Japan. She hit top 5 on Oricon. I think top 6. I think Good Day hit 6, and you and I hit 5, which is really good on Oricon for a Korean language song in 2010, 2011.
Yeah,
You
because
know,
usually when
before
you see
the really big
groups
K-pop
like
wave
girl
there.
groups doing successful in Japan, they make like distinctly Japanese releases.
Yeah, I mean, at that time, it was like you had among women at least, you had Girls' Generation and Kara, but they would go to Japan for long periods of a time at a time and do
Mhm.
Japanese releases. Um, and Lowen decided that that's what IU should do as well.
Hmm.
So right after Last Fantasy drops, they dropped a Japanese EP.
I did not know, even as I was researching her, that she did a Japanese release.
Yeah, she was self-titled Japanese release on December 14th, and it actually did pretty well in Japan. It sold 12,000 copies, which is pretty solid. Um,
I need to hear that later.
yes,
Are you singing in Japanese? I can't even. I'm trying to like imagine this.
one of two Japanese releases.
Hmm. I could see her
Yes.
music doing well in Japan because it's like especially kind of like the like piano ballad style sometimes.
Hmm.
But I didn't know that she distinctly released a Japanese release. That's interesting.
Yeah, two Japanese EPs. Yeah, it's not something that people often go to as the when they're talking about IU's discography or
When you heard those songs,
what
do
do
you
you
feel
think
like
of.
they kept her vibe, or was it different feeling?
Well, I should point out that the first one is Japanese versions of
Of a
the same
song
song.
she already. That makes
Yeah,
sense.
like
Okay.
it's or is it even in? It might not even be Japanese.
Oh,
The
she
first
might not have
one.
even done it in the language.
Yeah,
Just
I
like a
think.
re-release, repackage for for Japan.
Yeah, so yeah, I just checked. So the first EP was it had um it was Good Day, Raindrop, Lost Child, Only I Didn't Know, Last Fantasy. All I think just originally in their original Korean. Um and then Nagging was given a Japanese title, and so it was Only I Didn't Know, but they still were in Korean, I think. Ah, Japanese versions of Good Day and Raindrop were then released on March 21st, 2012.
Mm.
Okay, and then her second Japanese EP in 2013 did have the first original Japanese songs with Japanese
I'm
lyrics.
surprised Good Day in Japanese wouldn't be way like super super successful in Japan because I feel like that
I mean,
vibe
it didn't do
fits.
badly.
No, no, but you know what I mean, like crazy like success over
Yeah.
there because I feel like the whole vibe fits. I don't know. I feel like I'm just yeah because when you see what obviously Kepler and like things like Nitsu and Twice do really well in Japan because they've like
Mm.
really marketed it distinctly to Japan.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was more like a foray rather than a
Yeah.
full commitment. It wasn't what SM were doing with Boa or with Shiny and TVXQ and God's Generation, like putting them in Japan for months, even years, and having them
Mm.
really do the whole circuit and try and get out there. Like I think her first concert was in Tokyo with an audience of 4,000. You know, respectable, but not quite massive, crazy. You know, yeah.
I would say IU and Taeyeon as well don't seem to really care about cracking like international
No,
market.
no,
Like they're
it's
they're
it's
just
not been
like
their focus.
yeah, they seem like they just are being the artists they are and not caring about that. Like, you know,
Yeah,
like
and I think that's what I's always been about. Like she's always been about the music.
yeah.
It's always been her priority,
I feel
right?
like that's why the quality is there because they're not
Yeah,
trying to crack the code of like
it's not
how do I get in America? How do I get in this country? You know, it's like
it's
no,
not just
just like
some
release my music.
commercial, yeah, just whatever. It's
Yeah,
just
because there's
her
certain
doing
artists like
whatever.
CL and others in from the industry that I feel like really started to worry about how to go beyond South Korea, like with their music and stuff. Whereas I feel like one of the that's I use gaining popularity to me more and more still. I feel like she is getting more international popularity without even trying to be internationally popular.
Yeah,
You know, it's interesting how that works.
yeah. So should have I've pointed out, I think, another really big hit for her. A song that we didn't give credit to before because it was before Good Day, I believe.
Oh, okay.
Just just yeah, it was a few months before, but it was um nagging.
Nagging.
Do you know nagging?
No, I don't think I've ever heard that one.
So nagging was what she is a song that she did with Im Solong. Do you know Im Solong? You probably know the group if you don't know his name.
What's his group?
2 a.m.
Oh, I know 2 a.m. Yeah, so
Yeah,
he's from
yeah,
that group. Okay.
yeah. So have been aware of on an episode of Knowing Bros or a couple episodes of Knowing Bros where he had apparently said some stuff against Hodog and Hodog would just kept going, "Him so long, him so long." Like, yeah. um, yeah. So that one it was recorded for a show, I think. Let me check. It was okay. It was a theme song for the second season of We Got Married. Um, which makes me think that she must have been on We Got Married with him, but was
Like
she?
that. She did the theme song for her own season of We Got Married or something.
No,
Like,
no, I don't think she wasn't. I only said that because the other song was the other like theme song was We Fell in Love, which was by
mm.
Jo Kwon and Guyan, which is a hilarious pairing to think
I've
about.
seen
But they were
clips.
on that season.
I've seen clips of that show. That's one where the two idols pretend to be like married to each other, right?
Yeah, I bet
Yeah.
you've seen the Joy one,
Yeah. Oh well, yeah. Of course, I've seen
the
it.
one
I
with
I
Sim
pretend
Sim
I
from B
never
to
saw that
B.
one though. That one doesn't exist.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But she I mean I would have been surprised if she was on it, especially at that age. But yeah, so that the nagging was a really big hit for her for sure. But it's mainly because of how popular the show was. I guess that's probably why she wasn't on it, is because she was yet to be famous. Like that was certainly the, oh, who's this singing? oh, she's releasing an album a few months later, I'll check it out, like that
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Well, just hearing her voice would make someone go like, "Oh, what
Yeah,
is that?" You know, like that
and
you'd instantly start
it's
thinking.
on. It's been a while since I've listened to Nagging, but it's like a classic pop ballad. Like it's the kind of stuff that Korea just is all
Yeah.
over. So
Well, it's like
yeah,
well, sometimes when you watch the dramas, and then there's that ballad that always kicks in every episode or something, you know, like, and it'll be the chorus part coming in, like, ah, like as the scene happens in the drama, you know, like if anytime there's a romance scene, you know, some ballad chorus is about to kick in, like, majorly every time. And then it flashes to a fried chicken ad in the middle of the drama every time as well. Subway,
yes.
fried chicken. Is that just like is Subway all over the place in South Korea? Because the amount of times I've seen Subway in
Somebody
the
just sponsors
drama.
dramas. Yeah, no, it is. I mean, it's. I wouldn't say it's any more prevalent than it is anywhere in the West, but you do see a good few subways here and there. I actually went to Subway in Korea for the first time last week.
Is it better?
Pretty good. Pretty good. Yeah. Can't. You can get some. I was actually kind of shocked that it wasn't as crazy as I thought with the kind of ingredients you could get. I was thinking it was going to be wild, but like it's fairly standard. But I had a nice. You can get like a Korean barbecue sandwich.
Damn, that sounds
Something.
bomb.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I want that
you know.
instead of
You
what
know
you get
it's
at my
good.
Subway.
You know it's good. Um. Yes. 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 So what happened in between? So after the Japanese stuff in 2012, she was kind of quiet for a bit through at the end of after you and I up through 2012 until May 2012 when she released her first, actually not really her first, but kind of her first proper single album. Which is called Spring of a 20-Year-Old. Um, and
There's
that
some of the titles.
yeah, well, this had the song Peach.
Mm.
Are you familiar with Peach?
I'm not familiar with that one either. Peach. That does sound. I've totally had to have heard. I feel like I've heard
Peach.
IU's whole catalog at some point at this, but yeah.
Mm. Peach is a very kind of simple acoustic song.
Okay.
It's one of the first songs that she herself made. Um, and it was inspired by her friend Sully from FX.
Oh, I know this song. I know this song. Okay, because I've definitely had that shared to me because of that reference to Soli with it.
Yes. So, yeah, and it didn't do crazy well at the time, and then the sad thing about it is it actually re-entered charts after Sully died.
Mm.
And I remember IU performing it at a concert like shortly after her death and managing to hold it together. Which is a credit to her professionalism as a performer, because I wouldn't. you know.
That was like one of the things when I like texted you in the Discord as I was researching IU, like her like story's gonna bring me to tears or whatever, because like the childhood upbringing was like very rough and poverty, and then I was like, all right, but she's had all this amazing career, so everything after this is like sunshine and rainbows. And then she was friends with Soli, she was friends with Jung Hyun, and then friends with Guhara,
Yeah.
and there was that whole gap of time there that is just super sad for her, you know. And then
Yeah.
I read, I believe it was she found out about Hara from while she was doing a show, like doing her concert, like found out about that as she's doing the concert, which is just like I can't even imagine finding that information out as you're performing or something. Like that's just insane to me. And then she still
Yeah.
finishes that
Yeah. And
show,
like
and like it's
just like remarkable strengths of character. And I guess in a way, having had the hardships that she had endured when she was young probably helped in a way to prepare her to deal with loss and heartbreak in ways that perhaps might have been harder otherwise. Because like we saw when that happened, and that because it was all after in the same fucking like span of 9 months, whatever it was. It felt like it was all so quick.
yeah, it's very chain reaction feeling like when it was
Yeah,
happening.
And like we saw, like with Taeyeon, for example, she just like disappeared. You know, she completely withdrew, and like everyone was worried about her. But IU kept slogging on and didn't let it get to her
Well, I
in
feel
a
like
way.
she kind of like work was a way for her to like keep sane or something, you know, like she seems like someone who just keeps working even if everything's crazy around her, you know, like,
Yeah,
and can, if she's focusing on, like, she kept focus on music and everything to kind of keep it out of her mind, I guess you would say. But then she did 8, which was lyrically seems to be very focused on that whole year kind of having
yeah,
happened.
yeah. And I always felt that Love Poem was also a song that was not necessarily about it, but like the timing of it, the manner of the release, and everything, and what she was saying in that song. You know, like I'll be there singing until the end and stuff like that. I think was certainly I mean, she said herself that if it's difficult for her, she could only imagine how difficult it would be for fans, and
Mm-hmm.
she wanted to be like a positive voice and someone that they could kind of be comforted by. They you know, they knew that she was like, well, it would be harder for fans if I'm not there for them either. Um, Again, which when I don't think anyone in the world would have blamed her if she wanted to take a few months off.
Yeah.
You know, like it's certainly a tribute to the kind of person that she is. Um,
Yeah, because she always, I mean, she's, there's people who give off like that strong, cool vibe, but IU literally like lives that vibe. You know, like she is strong and cool. Like you've seen it so many times when you're reading about like her upbringing and then events that happened. It's just like there's some people who give off that vibe and maybe they're not actually like that, but IU really is like that. Like
yeah,
it's
for sure.
different. She fits the aesthetic that she gives off.
Yeah, definitely. Um, God, I have to let's crack on. Where were we?
Yeah, no, they're just the middle super. This is the depression arc that we're on right now.
Oh gosh. Okay, so we get to a really good uh point in her discography after this when we come to October 2013, where we get Modern Times.
Hmm.
Um and Modern Times was not only a ludicrous success in terms of having multiple songs from that hitting over 1 million on the download charts, um, though it didn't actually sell anywhere near it. I think it sold like half the sales of Last Fantasy, which is interesting to think about.
Because
Um,
Last Fantasy had like 7 million.
oh, you and I had 7 million
Yeah.
by itself as a download. Yeah. Um, I think the issue was, I think that people didn't want that sound from her, and this has kind of been a thing that when I used had critics or criticism, it's often been along the vein of this wasn't what we wanted from you, and then everyone goes, I mean, it is still great. You know, it's good, but it's not what it's not what we want. So like she'd already established this persona, not really a persona, it's just how people viewed her as the nation's little sister.
Yeah.
Right, that was her nickname, the nation's sweetheart, and everyone kind of found this, you know, young teenage girl as like this super like talented and prominent figure with a great voice who could clearly do a lot of different types of music. It wasn't an idol, but could kind of be marketed as an idol, sort of. Like they thought, you know, she can be a big feature of the Hallyu wave, which, you know, in a way she absolutely has been. Um, for her to change the vibe and do Modern Times, which is like jazz and swing and I guess blues and
Yeah.
stuff, like in a Motown, it's like I think it's a fantastic piece of music as a whole, but it's not what people just wanted to hear another Good Day, another You and I, right?
It's
And
it's
it didn't deliver that.
it's interesting to me when people want the same thing from an artist all the time or whatever, because how boring would it be to listen to IU's catalog and the entire thing is just another good day every time or something, you know?
Yeah,
Like
and I think it's interesting, and I think it's because IU kind of treads that line between, because the thing is, to me, it's still pop music,
yeah.
right? But I think when you see why there are singers in Korea who are balladers, right? They sing ballads. You say that every one of those songs is basically the same kind of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, ballads can be done in different ways, but fundamentally, they're kind of the same.
Yeah.
Um, but that's what people want. They're like, oh, you know, like, oh, Yoki, like as expected from insert ballader here, they always come through with this vibe that we want, and they love that about them. And I think with IU, perhaps because she's not an idol, she's not doing concepts, we're changing concepts and whatnot. It's they think, oh, this is what we want from her. Like, I want ballads from this guy, and I want orchestral musical type songs from IU. I mean, the singles from this were Friday and Red Shoes, and of which Red Shoes is definitely my favorite. But Friday did hit 5 million, so it's not like it was a wasn't like
Anytime you're getting numbers like that,
underrated
it's just
track or anything. And Red Shoes was like 1.3 or 1.4 million, something like that. I think Red Shoes
just a casual 1.4.
But yeah, I think Modern Times is where you can really see IU as an artist, because clearly she wanted to do something a bit different. I don't feel like this was a company, hey, we're gonna do this for your next album. I think this was IU going, no, I want to try and do something a bit different. I want to go for this kind of vibe.
I personally don't think I would have like the same kind of respect for her that I do if there wasn't that big difference of like jam to my C, you know, like where you can hear her music and there's a lot of real different styles that you can grab.
Yeah.
If an artist doesn't have that, it's hard to. It's not like you can't respect an artist that has something that they found and then they always give you that or something. But to me, like the most respectable artists are the ones that can really switch it up on you.
Right. Yeah. So we have some pretty big. I think this is another thing about this, is that there's a lot of collaborations, a lot of songs on it that you don't hear otherwise. So I guess maybe nowadays we should. Okay, obviously this is a bad time to say this because she literally just popped up on a fucking Jane Park song. But and I mean, she obviously did the one with Acme as well. So maybe I'm just talking out of my ass a bit. But when you listen to this album, and I'm saying this because I listened to it again today, it's like a little refresher, because I always held Modern Times as my favorite IU album. But especially the repackaged one. Friday we have Jang Yi-jong from History. Remember History? That song, Queen, good song, classic.
I don't. You guys will have to refresh me on that in the lives.
Boy group, you know, very classic.
History. You remember History, the subject?
Yeah, we had her song Pastel Crayon, which was from a show that she was on called Belle Ami. She had a song called Love of B with Park Ju-won, another singer-composer. She did Everybody Has Secrets with Gayen, of Brown Eyed Girls fame.
She did a song with Gayen.
Yes.
And it's called Everybody Has Secrets. All right. I know what I'm doing after this podcast.
She did a song called Walk With Me Girl with Che Baek-ho, who is like an old classic Korean vocalist. I wouldn't call him like a pansori singer, but he's like a very old traditional style singer. I don't know too much about him, unfortunately. Then there's A Gloomy Clock, which is of course written by and features Jonghyun of SHINee. Young Haeun features on Daydream. So and I think one of my favorite facts about Modern Times is one of the songs on there, which is written and composed by IU herself. It's called Bad Day. And I think it's maybe her first kind of jab at not wanting to
Maybe.
be, maybe, yeah, subtle. I know, not wanting to be like forever associated with just with Good Day, and not
Just
wanting to express
she
the
might as well
different
put Bad
emotions
Day,
as well.
like, and then in parentheses like ... I hate Good Day or something.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, but a varied cast, certainly. Like some of these things are very
That's a
different
lot of
types. I mean,
collabs, like
yeah,
a
yeah,
decent amount. Like,
yeah, and it's very the album as a whole, for how many people, how many different types of people are featuring on that album. Um, it's remarkably cohesive. I think when you listen to that Friday was the song from a repackaged version of it, but so I think maybe the repackage doesn't quite have the same cohesion just because there's extra songs kind of added in and it doesn't
yeah,
quite have the
bonus
same.
tracks and things like
Yeah.
that.
But certainly when you just listen to the original Modern Times, it's like it just flows together so seamlessly, and that's why it's like I hold it in such high regard as an album, not just from IU, but out of like K-pop adjacent albums as a whole. Like if I'm thinking of classic albums to recommend to anyone who wants to check any Korean music out, Modern Times will be one of the first ones I recommend.
I guess we should say that about IU, because if I'm showing someone K-pop and they just think of it in the sense of like, oh, there's just some dancing and there's just like some blah 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 groups or whatever. Like I feel like IU is that thing that you can hold up like, but there's this, and it's like, so you can't say that or whatever, you know?
Yeah,
She's like,
exactly. And IU alone has so many different things you can play to appeal to people's person at different vibes, right? Because you could play them a song like Celebrity or 8 and it'd be more of like a catchy pop song with like a bit of electro pop, whatever. Or you could play them something like Lilac or Coin, which has that modern kind of cool swag with a bit of like retro vibe to it.
yeah.
Or you could play them like Love Poem or like Gleamy Clock or something and have like a really like a sad emotional experience. Or you could play them a cute song like Marshmallow or
Well,
Boo.
that song like,
Or
in,
yeah,
my like I
going.
played like My C for my mom one time, and then she was like, "Who is this?" Like, like, you know, just like you hear it and you're like, but
Honestly, yeah,
it's so good. Like,
there are multiple songs that you can play from IU that feel like masterpieces. You know, and so My C is a great example because that song goes to so many different places, and you wouldn't think. I mean, it shouldn't work.
Yeah.
As well as it does, but
it just works. Insert Todd
just,
Howard. Just
yeah, but yeah, as while I can't really pick a particular song out of Modern Times as well because of just how good I think the album as a whole is. But the Red Shoes, it does always have a bit of a soft spot in my heart, even just because it's like so upbeat and happy, and just IU going summertime, you just going. It's like it feels like something out of like Hairspray or something. Like she's just like got out of bed and is like ready for the new day, like that kind
like
of
it, like it could be in a musical, like you're just saying Hairspray. Hold on for everyone who's hearing a Shiba Inu scream in the background. I'm just gonna fix that. Come on, then. Everyone just saw Momo almost biff a jump. No, yeah, I know what you mean. To me, even some of the newer stuff like Lilac is almost something I feel like could be in like a musical or something, you know, just like they even in the music video have a bit of that vibe when they're in the train together and they're all kind of doing that. Like,
it could almost be like a movie soundtrack type vibe,
yeah.
right? Yeah. Which I guess is another thing to touch on is that IU's had a ridiculous career as an OST singer as well, but it's kind of hard to talk too much about those because I honestly don't know them as well.
Yeah.
But
there's so many OSTs it feels like too that artists do. Like I feel like a decent amount of like when we were watching Hotel de Luna and then Taeyeon was the the voice singing the OST, I was like, this is heaven. Like, I was like, I'm hearing Taeyeon singing and IU is on screen. It's like,
Yeah. There's yes, I mean the most famous ones that she appeared on, um certainly her first number one was Someday, which was from the Dream High soundtrack, um which was a show that she herself appeared on, um with Susie and Gion.
it's interesting to sing the song for a show that you're
But
in.
that usually is that's usually a thing.
Okay.
It's not at all uncommon for someone, if you have a singer in a show, then the singer will sing part of the OST. Like even like Shiwon from Super Junior, who does a lot of acting. Even he's not by any stretch that strong of a vocalist as Suju goes, but he will do songs on his own OSTs and stuff like that.
It's two
Yeah,
birds
but
with one stone, I guess.
like when we're talking about like IU's like success and for soundtracks, for example, like from 2010 to 2015, across the release of four OST tracks, she sold 8 million 8 million downloads across them for OST songs.
That's crazy.
Like, and some people will hold up songs like Hold My Hand, Heart, as like among their favorite IU songs. Give You My Heart as well from Crash Landing on You. That was another like really big song.
In Crash Landing on You. I watched that drama. I'm trying to remember. Like, yeah, because the OSTs for dramas are usually like ballads. I feel like.
Yeah.
Most of the time, and it always hits, like I was saying, in those like romance scenes. And the ballad hits in like instantly.
If you listen to a part of that song, you'll immediately be like, oh, it's that one.
Yeah.
But and that's my nature connection for the day, because another artist featured on the Crash Landing on You soundtrack was Kim So-hee of Nature.
Hey, let's go.
There it is.
I'll find a way to bring up Metallica. Don't worry about it.
But that marked like the first time in like 5 years that she'd done an OST. So it was like a big deal, basically. Yeah, I think if you can do a drama now where your OST has IU on it, then you're golden. Basically.
Well, I was just say, like, now if IU features with someone, it's like number one, and you're getting a hit. Like Jay Park's song went to like number one. IU's on it. It's like boop. It's just like if you want a sure number one like song, it's like.
Yeah,
let's get IU. Let's get
IU made. I'd be mean and say IU made J Park relevant again, but look, I can't help J Park. Oh no! Everyone wants to shame J Park for various dumb shit that he's done. I mean, I don't hold that much against him. He just makes himself a very easy target. Those of you who know what I'm talking about will know. Anyway, so moving on, what was next for IU?
Well, there's like 4 years between full album release from Modern Times, because Palette is like the next full album, right?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah, and that is after they get bought by Kakao.
Yes.
And so Palette is a masterpiece. I mean,
yes, but hang on, because we have a few more things we need to talk about.
Well, I'm skipping I'm skipping something in the 4 years.
So we have there's a September. A poorly timed release, September 11th, 2013, Monday afternoon, a Japanese single album. But in 2014, we have A Flower Bookmark, which is her first cover album. So this was released on her birthday, which is cute.
May 16th.
Yes, May 16th, 2014. And it's a remake album. So like how Joy from Red Velvet released a remake album with a bunch of remake songs, Year and Beck released a remake album. It's something that does happen. It's not crazy.
Makes sense.
Revolutionary. It's just going back and doing a whole bunch of old famous songs. And I think the one that perhaps people will be most familiar with is My Old Story, which is great. I think her cover of it is a lot of fun.
That
Um,
title is so familiar to me, so I know I've heard it. That My
yeah,
Old Story, like.
another it's a really like kooky and fun music video with it as well. Um, Generally, that album is just fun. It's her clearly just going back to songs. I think maybe songs that she liked or her family liked or something, and just doing them for a laugh, and having a good time. And I think that can be where IU is often at her strongest, is when she's just having a good time with it and
It,
doing something that she wants to do.
it's interesting. The cover albums, do they really stick to the style of the original song, or do they actually like change stuff about it?
Well, for her, like, I mean, it can vary, but she's remaking songs that were 20, 30 years old.
Hmm.
So obviously there was like
Some update.
modern spins,
Yeah,
and
there you go.
she puts her own style on it. She
Well, yeah,
puts her
just
own
her
take.
singing something. We'll give
Yeah,
it
but
its own
I think
spin. Yeah.
some of the ways that she did the instruments and stuff, I think have got has more of a IUB. Like when you listen to them, if you didn't know that they were remakes, they would sound like IU songs, just
Okay.
for different. It would just sound like, oh, she did the Modern Times album, and now she's doing this album, and it's kind of
Well, that makes sense too
different.
if she picked songs that like influenced her stylistically and stuff too to
Yeah.
cover. The
Yes.
cover album thing's interesting to me. Like it seems very common in South Korea to have a full like cover album, whereas I feel like that's not a usual thing in like American music for a band to have a full like
Mm-hmm.
cover album. I do know that the only band now here's my Metallica reference. I do know Metallica did do an album with covers on it, but that was like an album of covers that they had performed live for years. And
Mm-hmm.
people were like, how come you've never like done an actual recording? And they're like, well, here you go, now we did. And it's like, I believe Garage Inc. was the album they did that. And so that's like the only Western band I can even think of that has just like an entire cover album. Like it seems more standard in South Korean music for them to be like, here, I
Yeah.
dropped a cover album or something.
Yeah. So it's always, yeah, it's always the remake album. It's
Mm,
always,
the remakes.
yeah, it's cool.
No,
Um,
yeah, I think it's a cool thing.
and then after that we have Chat-Shire, which is I feel like a pretty another kind of, I mean, it's hard.
So I was just going to completely gloss over when IU first took writing credits of her entire.
Yeah, well, obviously, yeah, she had done songs before, but this is, I think, this is her most personal album
Yeah, when
at
I
that point.
had read about it, it said it was the first time she was credited as the sole lyricist and composer of her own, like the whole thing, like the
I mean,
sole lyricist, sole composer of it.
it's definitely not true because
So I
she
just read something that was total bullshit.
she is yeah, um, and she's
Which tends to happen on the internet.
I think perhaps she might be credited as the lyricist for each album,
Mm,
but she didn't do the music for each one.
mm.
And there was the okay, well I'll get to it. So anyway, Chat-Shire is a really personal album for her, and it's like where she explores her ideas about growing up, and what's kind of shaped her and her interests and her passions and stuff like that. And 23, the title track, is like, for IU, it's her own acknowledgement and addressing of the reaction that she had in among the Korean people of not be moving away from being seen as like the nation's little sister. We already had the Eunhyuk scandal at that point, and I can't remember exactly when she got into like she was in like a long term relationship at one point. I can't remember when that started. It might have been after this actually, but she was basically saying, "Look, I'm not a little girl anymore.
Yeah.
I'm 23, as the song would suggest, although that's the in Korean age. But you need to not treat me like a child, and I should be able to be. I should be able to explore my sexuality. I should be able to be an adult and not be worried about what you think about that.
Yeah, she's a human being.
Yeah, funny that. And I mean the lyrics for 23 are pretty pretty frank about that. Like the bridge basically contains like her saying, can I not be nasty a little or something like that, and like the way she says it is like very suggestive, and I'm just like, okay, all right.
It seems like that's like a song too that other idols have covered to say like the same thing.
Yeah,
Like,
it's become a classic, and it's always one of the top songs in karaoke, that and Palette, and it marked the start of her doing these like not annual, but like every couple of years she does like a birthday.
Yeah, because Palettes, she talks about being 25.
25,
Yeah.
And then 20 and 8. The 8 is her being 28. Yeah. And every year we have people at karaoke who just sing that as like their birthday song, in the same way that they'll sing coming of age ceremony when they turn 19.
Well, that one just feels different.
That does feel different. So
sorry, I just imagined if IU had done that, that would have been hilarious.
I mean, she might have done it in the karaoke. We'll never know. A song composed by JYP, of course. JYP. But so she on this album she explores these things, and it led to some pretty serious controversy. I think probably some of her biggest like scandal. She certainly, as beloved as she is and continues to be by Korea, she's had her own fair share of bad press. But I think even for me, the Chat-Shire scandal was like pretty ridiculous.
Yeah.
As things went. So
a lot of scandals to me always just seem like unwarranted when I learn about them. It's like, but I understand there's culturally different mindset sometimes with scandal things, but most of the time I read it and I'm like, what? Like.
So the thing for this, another thing about her is that she often has designed her own album art. She did that with Peach, and she did this with Chat-Shire. And the Chat-Shire's album cover depicts her lying down with her hair like flowing out above her, and then in her hair are different images, all of which kind of afloat. It's just basically showing like her dreams, her thoughts going into her head, right? Simple enough concept to grasp. But among those images is a picture of a young boy, wearing fishnet stockings.
How dare she?
Yes. So it's basically there was a whole like IU is a pedophile scandal that came from that. The whole thing is it's from the song Zeze, and it depicts Zeze himself, the character, from a Brazilian novel called My Sweet Orange Tree, which is a 1968 novel. It's quite famous, but that
is an obscure reference that I would.
And the boy is meant to be 5, and it's basically like, I think she uses it as a reference to be like, I'm not this child. I'm not like this child who dances around under a tree anymore. Like, she
basically did something a little too smart for people to pick up on.
Basically.
And then it became like a very stupid thing out of that.
And the criticism is ironic in a way, because it's like attacking her for something when that's kind of her point in the first place. Is that she's not a baby.
That's a scandal that kind of reminds me of like, just sometimes someone will do something a little too intelligent for everyone to pick up on, and then it's just like, becomes this stupid thing. Like Rammstein had a song called Deutschland, and the video is very, Nazi stuff going on in it and things like that, and everyone's like, oh my god, they're Nazis. and it was like,
Yeah.
did you read the lyrics or watch
It
the
couldn't
video?
be more satirical.
Yeah, it's
if it
satire
tried.
of.
It's like, and Rammstein also have a song called America.
Yeah, it's like,
Like-
you took a literal meaning of something that's satire. It's like,
Yeah.
it's amazing what
Yeah.
goes over people's heads sometimes. You know.
Yeah, and how many people then like, you know, go along with that.
Mm-hmm.
But what that meant was that it was a big scandal. It could very well have been IU's like biggest or most impactful scandal. What it meant was that she didn't promote 23 at all, and I think there's only like one performance of it from the time.
Really, it's such a good
that you can
song though,
find.
too. Like,
Oh,
I feel like it's such an
great
iconic song to her. Like,
Yeah, and I mean, and she performed it. I think it was an award show. I think that she performed it, and she like comes out with like she's wearing like crazy heels and it makes her legs look stupidly long, and then she like sits in like a glass cage in the middle. It's very cool performance, and you can really tell that she's making not so subtle imagery to yeah. So I think it tarnished the reputation, I think, of the album as a whole. It meant that it didn't sell that well. And again, not selling that well. It sold 66,000 copies, which for 2015 is still really good. But again, when you think about how before she had already sold over 100,000, for example, it was like clearly there's a drop off here. But again, it's an album that critically is acclaimed, and it's certainly one that you can't miss if you're trying to listen to IU's discography. Like, you absolutely have to listen to Chat-Shire.
And I feel like now no one would have a mindset about that song that they did then. You know, with IU now, like I would.
There's a secondary scandal which so this came out around the same time as when IU was what am I trying to say here? Acting in the show The Producers. I think my mind was trying to say producers, and then I tried to turn it into promote. Anyway, she was in the show The Producers, which is a great romantic comedy with a ludicrously star-studded cast full of cameos, including from Choapi. But it's her opposite Kim Si-hyun, who becomes like a really long-time friend, collaborator of hers. Cha Tae-hyun is in it as well. It's just great show. Very much recommend it. Taewon's in the first episode. What more could you ask for? But in that, she plays a character, Cindy, who's a singer, and it's loosely based on herself a little bit, kind of, but not like really.
Yeah.
And she's very stuck up. Her character is very stuck up and kind of snooty and rude, and naturally, of course, she falls in love with Kim Si-hyun, and then it's fine. But in it, she does a song which is called 23, and is it's terrible. It's really bad, but it's obviously just done as like a fun thing for the show.
Yeah.
But it actually got released as like a special CD only bonus for Chat-Shire, which I think must have been hilarious because it's so different in sound from the rest of everything, and it wasn't made by her. It's just like I think people just threw it together for a laugh, basically.
Yeah.
But it turns out that they actually sampled none other than Britney Spears from her hit 2007 song "Gimme More," and including using her voice and using some of the music to the point that it's close to just being straight up plagiarism.
Oh, okay.
And they didn't consult Britney about it, which it generally is a no for something.
Yeah, so like copyright became an interesting scenario.
But I think because it was a CD only release and everything, it wasn't that big a deal. And Britney's side, which is like whatever, they didn't press charges or anything. But he had to come out and apologize about that as well, which I feel again kind of soured it. Just like that was meant to be like a fun little
like it seemed like it was kind of a gag type of thing.
Yeah, so it was not the most successful time for her in terms of just like what happened, the general like just the fallout, as it were. But and perhaps that is why then we have quite a long break until we see her again
For Palette, right?
at all. Yeah, because we have what was she even doing? She was doing a lot of um she toured, I think, for a long time, for like a good few months at the end of 2015 through 16, and then she did a lot of acting.
It makes sense to do like a lot of concerts and stuff between that time because your actual fans are gonna go to your shows, like
Yeah,
versus when you're releasing stuff publicly like music videos and songs. That's when you're opening yourself to all this like drama basically. And if
yeah,
she's just performing for her fans, it's kind of that makes sense. Like I'm just my actual people who don't hate, who are just gonna hate on me for no reason or something, you know.
yeah.
What acting did she do during that time though? Because I know I've seen Persona, I've seen Hotel de Luna and stuff, but that's like recent acting.
Right. So the one you're probably most familiar with would be Moon Lovers Scarlet Heart Ria.
Okay.
That was in 2016. That's the one that she does with the Ijungi. Yeah, Ijungi. Who then who cameos in Hotel del Luna as the guy, as the crazy priest when
Oh,
she's looking for the other options
Hmm.
to be the manager.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, he also appears on her episode of Knowing Bros with her, a double episode of Knowing Bros with her. Yeah, that was a smash hit, like crazy hit, and I think around that time, people were really starting to take IU seriously as an actress as well. So perhaps she was already kind of at that point. It was looking more like she was going to be migrating over to a more acting focused career, and doing music less. And I think the reaction of the public to Chat-Shire was a factor in why perhaps she wanted to slow it down. But yeah, she was touring. She had never toured like outside of Asia. I'm actually not sure if she's even ever performed outside of Asia.
Yeah, I don't know. I've seen when I was looking up performances of her and shows and stuff. I've seen I mean, Philippines is still Asia, so she went to the Philippines, and then that was the only kind of major performance of hers in a different country that I saw when I was watching.
No, she did some big ones. She's on a big concert in Taiwan, in Singapore, places like that. But yeah, I don't think she's ever performed in like Europe or America. And I do have to wonder if, especially now, it's maybe they are offering and she's just saying no. But to think of, if organizers like Cake on USA or whatever are approaching EDAM now and trying to get her to come, because I feel like it would be a big thing, like holy shit, IU's playing in LA or something.
She could definitely pull a big crowd like in LA and New York or like specific states, like if she did a show here. Maybe she just doesn't want to.
I feel like she's either too busy or she just doesn't have,
because Taeyeon's the same. Like I feel like Taeyeon also, but you never really hear like, oh, Taeyeon's coming to the U.S. to perform or anything. It's like, nope, that's dead silent on that front.
And then I'm still eternally jealous of the fucking people in Amsterdam and Berlin and who just saw Taeyeon fucking busking.
Yeah.
Just like walking along, like you just hear someone singing.
Well, imagine if IU did that too. IU's just singing in the middle of like Berlin or something as you're walking around. I'd lose my mind.
Yeah. And it is always one of those surreal things as well, where like someone as famous to us as Taeyeon is sitting around in a public square in a European city, and most people are just walking by thinking she's just like some girl who sings.
Yeah.
No one is aware of like the extent to which she is a superstar in Korea.
It's crazy with stuff like that, because there's that thing too with there's like one of the most famous violinists ever that people have to spend insane amounts of money to see is just in the New York subway, like, and there's just people not even given it the time of day, and it's like
granted, on the New York subway you could see someone like getting murdered and like no one would bat an eyelid, so it takes a lot to make New Yorkers look up. But yeah. But well, anyway, well, we can talk about Palette now.
Well, so
you can talk about Palette.
I would say in that gap of time, like people don't seem to know from Chat-Shire till Palette that they're about to just get the absolute banger that is Jam Jam dropped on them. No, obviously the big deal from that is Palette with G-Dragon is massive. And when you look at her music videos, I do believe that is like the most viewed video of hers on YouTube. When I was going through videos, like it had a crazy number, but it was that song I do like, but it's not my favorite from that album or anything.
I think BB is her most views.
Is B? Oh, that would make sense. Yellow CARD. Yeah, that's probably the most viewed video. I think Palette is definitely a close second there.
Palette's 179 million, but I have a suspicion. No, 8 is 155 million.
Oh, I forgot that. Yeah, she has the song with BTS member as well, so it's like, of course, is it Suga that does that song with her?
It is Suga, yes.
Yeah, of course. But G-Dragon being in a song is just in his own merit something that also could bring in a bunch of listeners. So you have IU and G-Dragon together, which in my brain is a very strange thing to happen, but it did happen.
Right. And it's like, what's funny about this is that IU has always said historically, and she was asked this question a lot when she was younger, who's your ideal type? Like, who would be your dream man? And her answer was always Taeyang. She loved Taeyang. And I remember there's a show in which they meet for the first time and she is losing it. Like, she is full on red in the face. Her knees are buckling. Like, and I'm like, God damn, if I could get IU to look at me like that. But like, it's like she's full on like schoolgirl crush level over Taeyang, and of course Taeyang would soon be a very happily married man.
Yeah, so, to the what he wrote eyes, nose, lips about, right?
Yeah. So I can imagine her watching that video seething. Like, oh, I hate that guy.
Why is this song not about me?
I'm gonna do a song with G-Dragon instead. Yeah. So that makes it funnier, I think, that she ends up doing the song with G-Dragon. But Palette was always like one of everyone's like go-to IU songs. It's just a song. For me, it was never my favorite one. Yeah, I do like it. I think it's quite sweet, and I like the message behind it. It's about IU feeling comfortable with herself now that she's hit the age of 25, and she feels like actually a lot of these things I wasn't sure about in the past, I now feel I'm comfortable with. I know what I'm about, and I've accepted myself, and I like myself. Even if you don't like it, I'm okay, basically. And then G-Dragon's verse is basically about looking out for her and saying that, like, the things that she felt she was worried about were natural, and that she'll be fine, basically. And I think G-Dragon himself is like, yo, I'm 30, you're 25, you just turned 25, I'm about to turn 30, like, and I feel it. I get you. Another song in which the word oppa is used, but by G-Dragon himself, referring to himself.
Of course.
Yes, but it's a nice song, and I think it certainly has a good place in IU's catalog. But I do feel like the album as a whole is where the real,
I was gonna say, like the song, love the album. Like, it's one of those cases where like there's the main title song, but it's all the other songs on there that are selling it for me. Like, especially, I almost put 3 on my top 5 from that album. I ended up picking 2, but yeah, I mean, just Jam Jam being on that alone is enough for me to just be like, this album's goated instantaneously.
I forever respect the amount of commitment that you have to Jam Jam.
That's just like, there's always a song with an artist that made you go, all right, I'm gonna check out everything. You know what I mean? And that was the song that did that for me.
Yeah.
Like, you guys have been showing me IU, and I'd heard stuff, obviously, but that was the song where I was like, I'm gonna go listen to everything. When I heard Jam Jam, I was like, all right, this sold me. Like, there's just something about it. I don't know. I love that song. The whole, from beginning to end, just gets me going with Jam Jam.
Do you know who the primary composer of Jam Jam was?
No, I do not. Who was?
Sunwoo Juna. Sunwoo Junga. Do you know? You must have come across her
Sounds
before.
familiar.
She's a singer songwriter in her own right, but she's very famous in Korea, and she's done songs with like her like if you look at the collection of people that she's worked with, including IU, Suran, GD and Top 21, Lee Harry, Lee High, Sani.
Oh,
It's like she's one of those who's just you see her popping
it's
up.
kind of like Sia, who wrote for like Beyonce and everyone or whatever.
But I mean, she's
like,
in these songs. Like she does these songs with them. Like
oh, okay, I see.
She's had credited and uncredited songs with IU. She's done with Epic High, Hayes, MC Mong, Toy, like all kinds of really famous singers in Korea.
They've
So
just covered the whole industry basically.
Yeah. she was responsible for that. The other singles, of course, we have Oh Hyuk, who is the lead singer of Hyuko, the famous.
No, I know
the
band. Yeah.
And then we also have Through the Night, I think Through the Night is probably the song that is perhaps most beloved in Korea. From
so the one that's the other one I almost put on my top 5 because it's like guitar and her voice for like a solid amount of time.
Yeah,
and that's how can you not enjoy just hearing acoustic guitar and IU singing for like I believe other elements do come in after like a minute 40 in the song or something, but for like a solid amount of time it's just like a nice sounding acoustic and her singing, which is with a voice like IU's is perfection. Like that's an easy way to get anyone to enjoy a song.
Yeah, I mean it is the third best-selling single of all time in Korea, just behind You and I. So it's sort of 6 million. Do you want to know? Can you get? do you want to try and guess what the top 10 maybe of the best-selling singles in Korea is like?
Right now,
ever. But bearing in mind the chart.
I don't think I could.
It stops in 2018.
It stops in 2018.
Yeah.
So after that, there's not anything else on the top 10 from...
No.
Well, it sounds like that one you just described is in there, right?
Through the Night is...
Through the Night is one of them?
Through the Night is number 3.
I really like that song, but I wouldn't have assumed that about it.
It's one of three. Those are 2 of 3 IU songs in the.
From what I've learned about,
she's like basically,
I would assume most of it's not even like K-pop boy groups or girl groups.
There is one K-pop boy group in this list, and you will get no prizes for guessing who.
BTS or EXO or like
it's BTS.
Yeah,
but the song perhaps might be like it's Spring Day.
Spring Day, really? So like it's interesting to me. No, I know the song. It's interesting to me what internationally people would assume it would be like a top 10 in Korea's charts, and then they would be.
I will also point out that 2 of the top 10 are not Korean; they are just international.
Oh, Justin Bieber.
No, but you're in the right ballpark.
Yeah.
All right, I'll give you the top 10. Number 10 is Ed Sheeran with "Shape of You."
Really, the one he's being like sued for copyright right now?
Yeah. Tied, at 11 was Everyday Every Moment by Paul Kim, and this is 5 million, and also tied with Spring Day and Gift by Mellowmance, which I actually showed to you.
Oh yeah, you showed me. They were dope. The duo.
You like the dude's voice,
mm-hmm.
Kim Min-sok. And then Ailey, I Will Go to You Like the First Snow.
Really, I would not have thought Ailey was in there.
Oh, dude, that song, that's another OST song that brought Ailey back up right to the top. That was 2016, I think. That song is everywhere with Ailey. Park Hyo-shin's Wildflower, another really famous song in Korea. After that, then we have Friday, IU and Jang Hee-jung of History. then we have Maroon 5 featuring Christina Aguilera with Moves Like Jagger.
Beautiful.
Bangs. It does bang. Then we have Through the Night. Then we have You and I. And number one with 8 million is Cherry Blossom Ending by Busker Busker, which was a song that went crazy up to the top of the charts every single spring in Korea because of the cherry blossoms.
That makes sense. So it's kind of like that Mariah Carey Christmas song that always hits.
Basically.
Yeah.
But Busker Busker are like an indie band. And what's hilarious is that they kind of fit this trend of random Korean bands having a white guy who's always the drummer.
Really? So, the percussion is always some random.
I don't know. It's happened a lot of time. Like it happened way too much for it to be like a one-off thing. So Busker Busker made of the members Jang Bom-jun, Kim Hyung-tae, and Brad Moore.
It's hilarious.
They released 2 albums, were active for 2 years, and dipped. But Cherry Blossom Ending is the most successful song in Korea ever. But anyway,
never have even come close to guessing.
Point is, Through the Night was an unreal hit.
And she's 3 times on that list.
3 times in the top 10 alone, and Good Day is just outside of that top 10 as well. It's a testament to how big she is, and we talked about how many number 1 songs that she's had. I think now she's up to like 20 something number ones.
30 number 1 singles when I was looking up about IU. And then 5 number 1 albums, it said when I was researching.
Yeah. It's Through the Night has never fallen out of the top 100 of Gaon. That's the end of that sentence. It has never fallen out.
That's crazy.
Like it's been in there since its release.
I understand. I almost put it in my top 5. I do love the song. I guess you guys will see later what I did pick instead. There's maybe because I've heard it more or something. I don't know. It's interesting what makes you pick one over the other.
Yeah, I mean, between the 3 singles that the pre-releases, and so between Through the Night, Can't Love You Anymore, and Palette, the download sale is 11 million. It's just like it's like she has the population of Seoul as a whole listening to that album. And after Chat-Shire and like the longest break between releases that she'd had, it was certainly like a return to form, and the themes that she addresses on that album, I think, do like a really important job of saying how she's come to terms with everything and she accepts who she is. And
I feel like what she's done from there till now just make it impossible for like anyone to say anything, like negative about IU, because it's like, I mean, she was already great before that, but from then till now is just like amazing to me. Like from Palette to now is like the part of her catalog where I'm just like, wow, when I'm listening to all of it together. Especially, it's really hard if you had to ask me to pick album-wise Palette or Lilac, as a whole album, which is my favorite, because I don't know, there maybe is more consistency in Lilac as a whole album being absolutely amazing, because Palette is not like one of my favorite main releases of hers, whereas Lilac to me, I love that song, and Coin, and then My Seed, then I think I just made my own answer there.
You made your mind up in that moment. Yeah. I mean, ultimately, the fact that you can even have that kind of internal debate is testament to the quality of it, right? Because for me, I'm thinking in that conversation, I would also want to bring in Modern Times. I'd also want to bring in Chat-Shire. I'd also want to bring in the Love Poem EP. Like, there's a lot of great music that she's released.
Well, she has songs like Blooming and like BB like Yellow Sierra did that are like kind of their own single releases versus being like a whole album package. Whereas if those were packaged into one of those albums, that would probably be a huge deciding factor as well, too.
Right. So we actually have her next. She has her second remake album, intelligently called a flower bookmark too.
Mm.
Electric Boogaloo. I'm not actually Electric
Electric
Boogaloo. But this one again didn't. Okay, the thing is, so the title for this was Autumn Morning, which is by Yang Hee-eun, who featured on Modern Times with her before, one of the singers who featured on Modern Times. Again, like an older singer. It had a perfect all kill like right away, but it was not as critically acclaimed as her first Remake album or as her other albums, kind of in general.
But it all killed or whatever. That's still, so it's like you say that about it, but it's like, but it's still,
well, in the same way, in the
successful.
same way that, in the same way that like, Butter is or whatever. But it's in the same kind of style that it takes the older songs and reimagines them and makes them hers. But I think after having had such personal releases from her, after Chat-Shire and Palette, it kind of like felt a bit flat, I guess is the way to say it. Like it doesn't quite have that genuine emotion behind it in the same way. And because I think also the nature of the songs weren't quite as fun as the first Flower Bookmark, so it doesn't quite have that same like.
Well, I mean, just imagine the amount of effort as an artist she had to go into to making Palette and Chat-Shire. Like, let her have a break and do that fucking cover album. You know, it's like I'm sure the mental capacity at that point, you just want to do something like a little.
And this came out a few months after Palette as well. Like she went straight back in after promoting.
Was there a thing at that time when Palette came out where there was like two different types of IU fans? Like there was like the early ones and then the ones that were like, now I'm an IU fan because of Palette or something, or because of Chat-Shire to Palette?
I think Palette probably certainly did because of G-Dragon being on it. It certainly would have brought more
new fans.
Attention. And there's always. It's always floated around in the K-pop sphere. Obviously, when she's been doing songs with K-pop artists and whatnot, and she floats in and out of having been involved in like obviously the Eunhyuk thing. I don't want to mention it too much, but that was one example of like her getting a lot of negative attention from elves.
Yeah.
And then
accidental posting of a selfie, right?
Yeah, of a very obviously post-coital selfie in which she was wearing the pajamas that her fans gave her or something. Well, Eunhyuk is fucking shirtless, the sleazy dog. But it's always funny that Eunhyuk has always been labelled as the ugliest member of Suju. So they call him like the ugliest main dancer in the industry. And anyway. Of course, and then there was also the thing with Jungkook, where Jungkook said that IU was his ideal type, and consequently that led to all kinds of stupid fucking rumors. Of course, even though they basically have not really interacted at all, as far as I'm aware, at least not publicly.
I'm imagining a Jungkook fan right now seeing him say that, and then seeing IU and not just thinking, well, yeah,
fair enough.
Like, fair enough. That's like, okay, wow, she's stunning. Like,
Yeah.
Like, it's the same thing if IU was to say something like, okay, Jungkook is my ideal type. I would see that dude and be like, okay, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it goes both ways, absolutely. There's some pretty funny scenes where I think there was an award show where BTS was sitting down and IU came and sat, and because there's award shows where like they're sitting around waiting for their shit, but the soloists, it's really awkward. They don't know what to do, So IU's just sitting there by herself.
When you put a bunch of people who don't know each other well sitting next to each other awkwardly.
But like so you remember like the more recent ones, like you would always see Sunmi and Chungha hanging out because they have no one else to talk to, so they just hang out with each other. But like back when IU did, obviously IU doesn't really attend award shows anymore, but when she did, she would sit there and like you can see the other members of BTS like nudging Jungkook, hey, go say hello, go talk to her, and Jungkook's like, no, I ain't doing it. It's quite cute.
I don't dare.
Yeah. And there was a bit where a single shot like that Mnet captured from was it the 2014 or 2015 Mama, where the BTS versus Block B showdown that they did, which is a great great bunch of stages, just really fun, like not serious competition or anything. Just the two really good, talented, charismatic boy groups just having a great time and performing.
Imagine that.
And yeah, there's a cut where I can't remember after what moment it was. I don't think it was after the moment where Jimin like rips his vest off, but certainly there was some point where it cuts to IU and she's watching it like like kind of like wide-eyed, like clearly enjoying it, and everyone's like, oh my god, she's looking at Jungkook, oh my god, like it was like a whole thing. Like,
yeah, of course.
Anyway.
Everyone tied it to something that probably wasn't happening.
Yeah. I can't even remember what the point of this original thing I was saying.
We both lost it. Or we were talking about
how she always was always like adjacent to K-pop, always kind of affiliated with K-pop
yes,
stuff.
yeah.
Is it just because of how many number ones she had, or what? What was the reasoning? I can't remember.
Well, like I feel like I don't separate her from I do separate her in the fact that I don't consider her like I would a K-pop group or anything, you know. But I don't think she's separate from K-pop as a genre in my mind.
No,
you know, like I don't think
she's definitely not separate.
Yeah,
no, definitely adjacent. Yeah, maybe it'll come back to me at some point. But anyway, the between Autumn Morning and Sleepless Rainy Night from that remake album, we then get to her next big release in what's it kind of like late 2018, October 2018, with BB. BB, which is the softest diss track of all time.
I love that song and video though. It's so perfect.
Oh yeah, it's so good. Another song that's directly referencing Sully. I forget, unfortunately, while she was still alive.
And so that had to do a lot with like the online kind of malicious hate.
Yeah. It's very much a diss track at haters. Basically, it's her like fuck them haters
in like in the cutest way possible,
in the most like quintessentially IU way possible. Yeah. She's basically saying, "Don't cross this line. And if you cross it, like you get a yellow card." Like, yeah.
I love the little dance she does in the video.
Oh yeah,
chorus and like, stuff. You know,
yeah. It's so it's cool. This is a really cool, like down tempo R&B kind of song. Which again, it's not really a style that we've seen her do very much, but I think that she's suited really well.
Yeah, like if you showed someone that song and didn't give them a context of the lyrics or anything, they wouldn't think that about the song at all.
No.
You know, like, it's so catchy, and you wouldn't think that's what it's about.
Yeah, and I think one of the lyric that's very obviously about Sully, I can't remember it like verbatim, but it's something like, "Oh, I see you've been hanging around with that girl with all the scandals again," and then it's like, "Why don't you just mind your business?" or something like that. Basically just saying, "Look, like I can be friends with who I want to be friends with. Like, leave me alone. I can do what I want. You don't have to You don't have to hashtag everything I do and say."
It's ridiculous, like gatekeeping who she could be friends with. Like,
and yeah, because Sully was. I think at some point we'll probably have to talk about FX in general, because there's a lot we can say, especially about Sully. But Sully always had a very divisive existence, and caused a lot of furore with her.
I mean, like I've sometimes with scenarios like that, it's unfortunately I think a lot to do with the particular industry that like you're obviously in, because it's a lot of harsh. People are like, you're under the microscope at all times, so it's like, unfortunately.
Yeah. So it was her 20th number one.
No, just the 20th.
Yeah, just number 20.
Just my 20th number one.
Yeah, and yeah, I know, just other certified platinum release, but it's certainly one of those songs that like you can always kind of come back to, and I think always kind of sounds fresh. I think the production of it is, because it started being like a down tempo R&B song, but it feels very, very modern.
No,
like it's very electronic, but done in like a way that it sounds fresh no matter when you listen to it. It almost sounds like IDM in a way. Like it's very cleanly produced, I think is the
I
best
know
way
what you
of
mean, yeah.
describing
And
it.
to me, it's one of her like most distinctly IU songs. Like, you know what I mean? Like when you hear an artist and it's like, okay, they can do that. I don't think someone else can, or something. You know, like that. I
Yeah.
would say that's one of the songs that is very much her style, and you can't really see someone else doing it the same way that she
Yeah.
pulls it off.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely agree. And I think it's always a good it's a good like kind of ammunition song to hold whenever there's something that's said about her. You can just refer back to BB because she's already said what needs to be said for pretty much any issue that
Yeah, anytime anyone brings something up, she just links the YouTube video.
that would ever come up. Yeah.
Just her Twitter's just a link of the.
It was also a at least in part was a 10-year anniversary of her debut release. Which I think you can track that the progress from Lost Child to BB is a pretty interesting.
Well, when you think of
run.
like that earlier quote where she kind of said like something about fame won't last or whatever, it's like, here you are a decade later, releasing another banger of a song.
Yeah,
It's like I bet at that point she started to kind of realize, oh, I'm kind of a big deal, like after a solid decade of being that famous.
Yeah. And then we have another pretty long break of almost a year, but in that time we do have a bunch of she's popping up on again. It's important to note that in this time she pops up on other people's songs a lot.
Features.
Like even way back in 2009 she featured on a song by Suho. Like Suho of EXO? Crazy.
Yeah, he's EXO.
He hadn't even debuted yet. No, but I mean, it was 2009, so it was 3 years before EXO debuted. So I'm wondering if it's the same. It might not be the same Suho. Anyway, Sang Shi Kyung, Sungri. Then my favorite song of hers, which was done by Soteji. There's the classic Infinite Challenge song that she did with Park Myung-soo, Leon, where she was dressed as is it Matilda from the Natalie Portman's character from the film?
Yeah, from The Professional.
Yeah, which they did as a joke thing for Infinite. Well, not really a joke, but like as a song for Infinite Challenge, where her name was EU Godji isn't EU was her stage name for that. She even did a song with Honey and Coney, famous variety show hosts.
To me, it sounds like she does like a fully immersed into her album and like makes something really important to her, and then kind of takes time to just do whatever she wants before she makes another album. Like,
basically,
a gap of time where she's like, all right, I'm gonna have fun, and then I'll get back to the grind of making something amazing, like an album.
Yeah, like I mean, after I think was it after I can't remember actually. Was it after? It might have been after Palette. She popped up on Love Story with Epic High, which was like a huge hit for Epic High. Even by Epic High standards, it was a huge one.
But I'm sure for her, it's really
she even featured in one of their music videos. It wasn't even in the. Wasn't even in the song.
Is that the one where she does like the martial arts?
Yeah.
She, for her, I'm imagining like when she does that in that gap of time, it's probably just really fun to collab with all these different artists that she likes or something. She's like, hey, I have all this pull and power now. Like I'm just gonna go hit on some songs with a bunch of people in the industry that I like or something.
Yeah, and she's hitting number ones on some of these as well, like. Not Spring Love or Cherry Blossoms with High 4, for example, was the number one. Sang Shi Kyung, It's You.
Well, for those artists, dude,
Leon was the number one.
Excited.
Love
like I would be, those other artists get so excited. Like we're gonna have a number one song. We have IU. Like it's guaranteed. Like
Soulmate with Zico is another huge hit.
I've seen the music video for that one. That's when she's like in the elevator or something.
Oh, it's so cute. It's like they're like it's just like being a couple in like a cottage. It's so fucking. I hate Zico. Why would he?
Who do you hate the most? Him? I'm forgetting the other guy's name, and the dude from Hotel de Luna or whatever. It's like them all.
Oh, oh, I despise them all. No, I mean, and obviously I'm in jest because
Yeah,
I
yeah.
do love
We're
Seiko,
we're
but
kidding, guys.
I wish Seiko was making more Block B songs rather than fucking cute doing cute shit with IU.
So
The
and then the other
dirtbag.
dude from, or no, am I thinking of the right group? Block B. The other dude from Block B is in Hotel de Luna,
Yeah, PO
right?
is
Yeah,
in
yeah.
no,
Po is
a fun little
the
intersection.
happiest human being I've ever seen in my life.
He's actually just about to go into the military. So good luck, PO. Serve well.
I cannot see that man in the military. It is just like it is like
Yeah. In that same time as well, she also released Cat with Song Woo Jung, who I just mentioned. Song with Kim Dong Ryul, a very famous singer. Another Song Shi Kyung song. Like these are people who've been active for many years. And she also, I feel like she also pops up with bands and stuff that people like might not be as familiar with, like Sisters Barbershop and Sweet Sorrow and stuff like that. These are names that might be less familiar, and she'll
yeah.
just do
I'm
songs
sure
with
I've
them
been
as well.
shown, but don't remember those names.
So her first release was not until release after that was again about a year later in November 2019 with Love Poem. Where she released the song Love Poem on November 1st, and then she released the album just over 2 weeks later.
Yeah, the thing is, she's doing so much stuff in that gap time that it doesn't feel like she's gone or anything. You know, like it's not
Yeah.
like she had an album, then it's like,
No, I mean, and
and
she
then
was
we're
in
waiting, and like
in 2018. She was in My Mister. I can't remember when she did Persona. Was that might have been 2019?
It's somewhere around there. And I remember on
Yeah.
Netflix that was a big deal. I saw the trailer and I was like, "Well, I'm watching this." It's like,
A great watch for anyone who
yeah,
hasn't seen.
that to me,
That.
I already knew she was a great actress before I watched Hotel de Luna because I had seen that. And there's the episode where she's like has the dude kill himself essentially for her and
Rips
puts
his
him
own heart
in,
out.
yeah, puts him in
Yeah,
like
yeah.
her little jar.
And I'm like, I'd do that. Just ask me to do it.
That's
I'll
like
do it.
it's relatable. That's the most relatable
But
episode.
that is really where you see her as really being a serious actress, because she does four very different roles, different styles, and it is a serious. I mean, I guess the first one is kind of lighthearted, and I mean, none of them take themselves massively seriously, but it is like it really is just showing her and her range as an actress, and certainly saying she's not just here to do the kind of typical K-drama celebrity type appearance. Like she wants to be a really serious actress. And she's recently just been filming a film as well. I think this will be her first like major role in a feature length movie. So I'm excited to see how that goes as well. Yeah, but so Love Poem is rough. Is the best way to describe that song. I think. I mean, it's a hauntingly beautiful song, and one I absolutely adore, but one I can't listen to very much. Like, it's certainly the thing is, it starts off, those first piano chords are so fucking bleak sounding. You're like, oh god. But the song as a whole does keep giving you these major lifts, and it does kind of conclude in this like really almost euphoric climax that is very uplifting and heartwarming in a way. But the context of that, that was released about 2 weeks after Sully's death. Okay. Like it's real close, and I think again she did write it, but I have to imagine it was written before, so I can't go and say that it's about Sully's death. But it was certainly used as her own way of helping people cope and expressing feelings about it. She said that it was she wrote it to support loved ones who are going through hard times, she said, it's difficult to see the person you love becoming isolated. It's painful not doing anything for that situation and just watching over it, which it feels like that's about that's referring
No,
to
yeah,
Celine, right?
I totally. And
You
to
know,
me, like, it's crazy how strong IU is just because of that, like, gap of time there. Everything that happened, and then just, it seemed
yeah,
like she's almost like an immovable statue or something at that point. Where like you can't phase IU or something.
yeah,
Like it's pretty crazy because there's not many people who can be that tough. Like it's
yeah, yeah. And like I said, just I would. She didn't do many. She didn't promote um Love Poem, and I think it would be. I would, if I was in her shoes, I don't think I'd ever be able to sing that.
mm,
It's not at that time. She did of course do some like performance videos and whatnot for it, but yeah, it certainly felt very poignant when that came out, and that was that time for me personally. That was like after Jonghyun and then after Sully, it was like. Uh, I was sat there like it became not it became who's going to be next, you know, and we lost Guhara 6 days after the EP came out. Um, so yeah, the fact she was able to carry on with her promotions in it is nuts in its own way.
yeah.
Um, and the fact that as well that the title for that, well, not the title because the title was Love Poem, but the lead single from the actual EP release was Blooming, um, which is quite a happy
No, it
folk
is.
song.
It's a
And
totally different vibe of song, and especially like
yeah,
I love there's a live performance of Blooming where she has the blue hair. Have you seen that? The whole crowd
where
has such a crazy chant going too with her.
and
Yeah,
she keeps repeating.
mm-hmm.
She does the chorus again and again at the
Yeah,
end.
yeah,
Like yeah. And that's from the Love Poem tour. But so and she's going through all of those emotions while she's doing that. And
yeah.
a note on that as well about IU's concerts is that she's notorious for not stopping. She's an actor who's like known for doing like 10 encores. Like she will keep coming back out until the venue kicks her out type
Yeah, I
thing.
saw a funny video of her speaking in English, saying like this is fake last song. She's like, give
Yeah,
me 5 minutes after this song. She's like, I go to restroom,
yeah,
I wash my face, and so she's like, and then I'll come back, and then we'll do more songs.
yeah,
She's like, you go
yeah,
use the restroom too, like telling the crowd. Is so funny.
yeah. She's honest, so sweet. And it's a really funny. I don't know if you've seen this one. I think it was in Taipei. So G Dragon for the palette tour would appeared a few times to do
Hmm.
to do palette with her, which was actually it was also great when he didn't appear because she would then do her own rap herself, and she didn't like they didn't just play like the MR of G Dragon like.
She did the part, yeah.
But she wrote a whole different rap because obviously it doesn't make sense for her to be addressing herself as a 30-year-old man. It's like it doesn't make sense. So she wrote a different rap entirely and performed that herself. And not half bad either. But anyway, but there's a really good thing where her and G Dragon, because they're in Taiwan, neither of them speak Chinese. They were
Yeah.
like they were talking in English to each other, and both of them speak really good English. Like I use English is actually really really good, and G
Yeah.
Dragon is also really good. And they're kind of awkwardly conversing with each other in English in front of a crowd who I don't imagine has the greatest level of understanding of what's going on. But it's very cute to watch. And she always gives that kind of wholesome family type vibe at her concerts, and
Yeah.
just that she will start a concert at 7 and she'll finish at 11 because the venue kicked her out. Like, and she will have just gone for 4 hours, like no
Yeah,
problem.
as long as someone asks for a song, she'll just keep going.
Yeah, she will say like, "What song should we do?" and then listens to whatever the crowd wants to do, and then we'll do it. But yes, on the note of the Love Poem album, I mentioned it before as one that I would bring up, because we have there's The Visitor as well, which is a great kind of jaunty tune. which was also done by Juk Jae, a really known arranger, producer, guitarist in Korea. Lullaby, just a sweet lullaby. And Above the Time, which is the continuation of the storyline which started at You and I.
Oh,
And
okay.
it carries on through the night and then into Above the Time.
Well,
And
there's a big gap between that
and
continuation happening.
what's amazing is that she even has the same actor in it. She gets the same dude 8 years later or whatever, and he's like,
got a
hell
family
yeah.
and kids
He was like,
now,
dude,
like...
because back in 2011, obviously it was obviously it was her first major release song after her breakthrough, right? So they didn't. It was like, you don't need to get Kim Si Hyun in it, like who was in Ending Scenes music video or whatever. It's just like, okay, whatever, like we'll get this actor who's not particularly famous or whatever, and he's like, you want me back? Hell yeah, I'm down. Let's go.
I use calling for...
I've actually been outside this whole time. Yeah. So which is great, and the music video for that is beautiful. I'm not going to profess to know the story. It's something about time travel and dolls' houses or something, I don't know, but that song, I think, was one of those times where when I listened to it for the first time, when I watched that video, I was just like, oh, I can't believe we went here. And I can't believe not only that we went here musically, but that it worked, because we have this, it's just this like really sweet, very old school IU sound with like these like soaring strings, and there's like some low brass. I don't actually know what brass instrument it is. I can't identify it from ear, unfortunately. I'm not that good, but I want to say it's like a French horn or something, but it's probably not. And it gives like, this this sense of grandeur and whatnot, but it's kind of wistful and kind of a bit sad, maybe a bit nostalgic, which is kind of what the vibe of the song is. And it just fucking turns into this, like, I said it was like an Irish jig. I mean, that's not really the best way to describe it, but it's something.
No, I know
it
what
sounds
you
like
mean, though.
It turns into like it's like a full on like a fiddle, like and there's just like it's like out of nowhere, but it fits so well to just change the vibe of the song. I think there's even like a hurdy-gurdy sound in there. Like honestly, like you hear just and it just and then she brings in a choir as well, and she uses choirs so well. She never overdoes it. She has no issue bringing in like a whole choir of voices for like 4 bars or 8 bars, and then just dropping it. Like in My Sea, she brings a chorus in so briefly, but it still works so well. And in Love Poem before, there's like a chorus of voices that comes in as well. And again, it doesn't last long. They only say 2 lines, but it hits. It just hits so well.
It's like it's like a little taster being thrown in every time, and then just like
it's like it just uses it to accentuate and like punctuate moments more. And it just makes that like the climax of the music right up until it will get stripped away and it's just left with her voice again. That it's like, oh, that was a ride, and it was like 5 minutes long, but it barely felt like anything because of that, like the way that it comes to a conclusion. So it's always been one of my favorites for that reason. For me, it puts the album at a really high place as well.
We'd already said it earlier, like the duality, the right word, I guess, of like how styles that she can have kind of in one album is what makes me respect her so much as an artist. Like when you can have an album that really takes you on like a musical journey for different styles like that, it's way better to be an artist like that than someone who just does what everyone wants or something all the time. You know, like to me that's what makes her so respected, like the capability to do something like that. For sure. Because there's a lot of artists who can't make an album that does that. Like it really takes you on like an adventure of styles like that. I would say like how long after that was 2019. So 2021 is Lilac, right? Yeah, I believe so.
Yes. Well, yeah, 2021 is Lilac. We have, of course, 2020 as well. But 2020 was the the pandemic year, as it were. So things were
Mm.
obviously different. And she decided to release just the single #1 song, which was Eight.
Mm.
Um, Again, a huge hit. Obviously, it was.
Again, I
You
was just
can't
gonna
really.
gloss over like a super important part of my.
Well, yeah,
It's
like you can't not expect Eight to be a hit because it's IU and BTS.
Mhm.
I mean, it's IU and Sugar. Like, and while Sugar has done songs before that don't necessarily, it's the same actually as other as RM, for example, did a song with Yoonha. Yoonha, massive, popular in Korea, and that song was extremely popular, but it doesn't necessarily bring the whole of Army along with it. It's
Yeah.
not like it doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
And Sugar obviously did song with Suran, for example, and while it helped and she certainly did well because of it, it's not like all of Army is there forever. And the same was true for Eight, but I think it marked like a really, it was like a kind of in the same way that Beat B seemed to be. It felt like a very mainstream K-pop channel release for IU. That while people might not have, while a lot of K-pop fans might have listened to Blooming, they might not have been as interested in listening to the album. They might have heard BB and Palette, but they might not have heard the rest of what was in that time frame. Um, and Eight felt like a whole
And
event for
if I'm
everyone.
remembering correctly, eight is the one kind of lyrically that hits hard because I remember in the
Yeah.
it's like "Are you happy now?" is like the opening like lyric
Yeah,
of
and
it, which is like
the video certainly appears to depict like animated versions of Sully and Jonghyun and Hara as referenced as well. Um, and the thing is, it definitely grew on me, but I didn't particularly like it when I first heard it. It felt just a bit for what I thought for what a song about that and a song in that could have been. Um, it could have been more.
I always remember the video more than the song with eight.
Mm.
Like they
It's a
had
good,
like
really good
that kind of
video.
animated mix of and the really weird kind of sci-fi room in the beginning, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Like yeah.
I thought that Sugar is a fantastic rapper producer. Thought his verse is extremely lackluster, and I felt like he didn't even know what he wanted to, like him just in place of a full line just saying something forever young and then going forever
I was
young.
wondering when
It's
we're
just a
gonna
bit,
have the
come on.
comment on BTS that gets us canceled,
Well,
and they're
it's the
no,
thing
I
is like
just,
okay, and this is how I felt about the song in general, is because IU is not absolved from this critique. Like, for as good as the both of them are as singer songwriters, it could have been better.
no, I agree.
But
I agree.
it did grow on me, and certainly when I hear the chorus of it now, I do feel something.
Hmm.
But it doesn't get me the same way that Love Poem would get me with that kind of like
She
emotion.
has other songs to me that emotionally impact a lot more
Yeah,
than eight does,
yeah,
and considering the subject of eight, I agree. Yeah, kind of that
yeah,
it could have been as impactful as like certain songs, like Love Poem, like we were talking about earlier.
yeah.
But I mean that's opinion. This is
Yeah, of
opinion.
course, of course.
I'm sure there's some people who feel completely the opposite way about it.
Yeah. Actually, something I wanted to mention just briefly before I forget. I was talking to one of my co-teachers at work, one of my Korean co-teachers, and she said that something that I'm not in a position to understand and appreciate in the same way as I'm not a native Korean speaker. She said that something that's always so impressive about IU, something that makes IU so remarkable, is that she uses words in Korean that are not at all common.
Mm.
She finds old Korean words that refer to really specific things, very particular emotions or very like specific things that have happened or whatever that just aren't in day-to-day conversation at all and would be very strange, not strange but like very like why are you talking like that if someone said it, but because it's in the form of a song it's like it's more acceptable to express things in that way without sounding like a weird, it's like kind of
Yeah.
like the equivalent of if someone was talking like Shakespeare, maybe not like Shakespeare but like
No, I know what you mean. She
using
finds like
pop
words
style.
people wouldn't use normally in like conversation, but she finds a way to incorporate it like
Yeah,
musically. That
Yeah.
that's it. You can tell IU is really smart, like, and especially
Yeah.
because of things like that, where it's like, and
Uh, and given that she like didn't do very well in school because of her like the shit she was going through as a kid and stuff, and like dropped out after high school, like she didn't do half bad. She doesn't see she seems extremely like capable for how comparatively like not educated she is. Um, and yeah, so I wanted to give a note to that she, especially in some of her like personal songs, she explores things in words that are very unusual and uncommon. So I think that's
oh,
just to
that's
give her a
dope.
brief like local understanding and praise of her
That kind of gives you the
capability.
idea that she must spend time like just on her own, like researching stuff for her own
She's
enjoyment. You know, like
she's known kind of maybe obviously not now so much as the in the pandemic era, but certainly a few years ago she was known for just kind of wandering around, like people would just kind of see IU kicking about, just like she would just you just see her walking down the street, and she'd just go into like cafes and shops and just hang out and just do stuff. And because she's held in such high esteem, um, everyone just kind of there was very rarely were there like was there like paparazzi frenzy or like fans or whatever going crazy. Like you know if Jimin was doing that, it would be a completely
yeah,
different story, right? But
just a bunch of scattered people
yeah,
running behind.
yeah,
Yeah,
but for IU back then, I mean, I'm talking like 2017, 2018, but it was a lot more just people were like, oh, he's this is our nation, our national treasure. Like, let her do her thing, and
yeah, let her
for the
live her
most part,
life.
obviously she was low key, and she did have a bodyguard like nearby, but he would give her space. Her relationship with her bodyguard, incidentally, is like
I've seen some videos,
adorable.
yeah. And he's like this massive dude,
Hulking dude, yeah, like he was really sweet. Um, yeah, so and obviously every shop that she went into wants to like take a picture and be like, oh my god, you went to our shop. But yeah, but she would just go around and get inspiration from small things, and I think she's the type who has a lot of whimsy and would just see some individual thing, just like one postcard, one leaf falling from a tree, and she'd be like, that would set her brain a whirring, and that would just give her the inspiration. And
yeah.
like with Chat-Shire, just reading books, listening to music and things would give her inspiration for her to write songs about. Yeah, so after 8, let's finish up the discography. We're almost there. 2021, we have the pre-release for the Lilac album, which was Celebrity. Another song I'm not a massive fan of Celebrity.
It's not my favorite song of hers, but she did a performance in which she was in like an all leather outfit, and I basically ripped half my chair apart, apparently, from just that moment.
I thought you were gonna say the one where she's sitting in the like sitting in the middle and she looks at all the messages from her friends and stuff, and it was really cute. But no, you went the other direction.
No.
Both,
See,
both valid.
But I suddenly had the strength of a titan from to that performance. I don't know,
but that is one of those songs again where it's like at first I wasn't crazy about it. It just kind of felt a bit bland, kind of typical like dance pop type song from her. And then like I learned about the lyrics more, and then it started helping the song hit more. It's like one of those rare occasions where knowing more about the song does seem to make a difference in how much you can enjoy it. It's just rare.
She seems like someone who does lyrics in a really witty way, so that can make the enjoyment value go up a lot.
Yeah,
that I do like that song, but it's not my favorite, anywhere near my favorite from that album release.
Yeah, because on that album we have Lilac, we have Coin. We have Apple, which is what you keep singing, and we have My C. Like I think the fact that songs like Apple and My C are on that album and they're just songs on the album.
I think the Lilac album would be the one, if I was showing someone IU, every song slaps on that album. So it's like I would just, if I'm showing someone if I was like, hey, here's an album or something of IU's, I think I would give them Lilac, like because I feel like it's got everything in there that someone could like. you know, because there's a lot of different style in there, and then I feel like there's something in there that someone would like.
Hmm.
But you might not agree with that, but I feel like that's a perfect album to show someone.
I think it is. I think something about it perhaps that was kind of disappointing to learn is that IU herself was a lot less involved in the music of this album than she had been previously. It didn't feel as personal. But the songs on it are so good that doesn't matter as much. But especially after having had so many personal releases from her, this one was a bit of a here's just a great pop album with a whole variety of different styles, and you know that's okay, that's good too, right? But that was perhaps the one thing that was like and I thought there were some songs on there that for what they were like, what they were looking like they were gonna be, when I saw the teasers or the previews and stuff, they ended up being kind of like that's not
Like
as good as
because there's the teaser for Lilac thing where she did like the fighting in the train and stuff.
Oh, no, that was great. But I mean, like for example, you know, Ryan Jun, who's K-pop hit maker since forever, has made so many classic K-pop songs. He produced Flu, and I feel like Flu is not a particularly strong song on there. We have Troll, which was a song with Dean, and Dean hadn't been really doing much for a while since he fell down the stairs. Sorry, Dean. And that again was kind of underwhelming for what that could, what I feel like that collab could have been. A song with IU and Dean could have been so good. Empty Cup was like written by Woogie and Penamiko, again two like really notable figures in Korean music, and again it just didn't quite land. But Apu was written by Chan Hyuk from Akmu, incidentally, if you didn't know that. Fun fact.
I did not know that, but that makes sense now actually.
It was a 2-for-1 deal. It was like, you can have Apu and you can do it on your album, then you can do Naka with us on our
okay album. They did a trade.
Yeah, worked out great. Yeah. Obviously Naka is a fantastic song, but so but the highs of that album are really, really high, between Lilac Coin, Apu and My Scene.
And the video release of like Lilac to Coin was awesome. Like I remember as that happened, I was like, okay, this is sick. Like and especially Coin, to me that video, that song together is great. Like especially the there's that little sound, you know, in that song too. I just love it. But yeah, IU has that like old school kind of suit on, and she does that little like jab sideways choreography thing. I love that.
She has it has a little rap in it as well and stuff. It's just it's a great way for her to explore things more. Coin, incidentally, is one of the tracks that I think that and Celebrity are the only tracks that she's credited on the music on that album. And then that's pretty much it. She did a collab song with it was about water. It's called like H2O or something. And then at the very end of last year, she released Pieces. December 29th, 2021, she released Pieces, which was a compilation album of previously unreleased material.
Oh, I don't think I checked that out.
So Drama was a song written when she was 20, for a friend who was feeling down after a breakup. There's the song that she wrote when she was 25, taking inspiration from the character that she played in My Mister. A song that she started writing when she was 25 called Winter Sleep, that she kept being unsatisfied with and only finished in 2021, which is why she decided, maybe I should actually release this and maybe some of the other stuff that I've had knocking about for
the entire time that we've been filming this, I've been like, I'm gonna have to go listen to that Gain IU song. It's like, that's a thing that exists. I need to know.
And then there's also a song for Jung Sung Hwan, who's another notable singer under Yushiol's label, that he actually was written for him, that he had on one of his albums a while ago, and she recorded her own version and was like, fuck it, I'll slap that on there too. So yeah, it wasn't like a major release. It didn't have a music video or anything like that. It just kind of existed. Of course, I actually skipped over the other release that happened, Strawberry Moon as well. She whacked out Strawberry Moon, just a digital single, the music video.
I like Strawberry Moon better than
Smashed
Celebrity.
it, number one across the board, obviously. Nice, fun song. I really like it more the more I heard it. My friend sang it at karaoke the other day, and I was sitting there going, I was just going, okay,
IU just has one of those voices that you can give me a song like Strawberry Moon, and I probably wouldn't like it, but I hear IU singing, and I'm like, I like this song. You know what I mean? It's like, it's just
right.
one of the, yeah.
And she said, I remember her saying that before Lilac's release that she wanted to be more musical in 2021. She wanted to do more music. She felt like she'd not done enough music, and she had rediscovered some of her flame for making music.
She has a massive catalog of music, though.
Yeah, that's why we've been talking for so long. And that's pretty much it. So I mean, I guess what's next for IU? She doesn't seem like she's showing any signs of slowing down. Like I said, she's about to release. I don't know when the film will come out. Obviously, I know the films can take place years before they actually release. So I don't know when it's slated to come out.
Well, yeah, if we're to look at her past, she released the Lilac album, so there's probably going to be a decent amount of time of doing other stuff and then another album. Like, it seems like possibly a 3-year gap would be like the standard or something.
It's for a full album, but we could easily get an EP later this year or next year. Other songs she'll always seem to pop up. Like she just put
her acting is great, so I understand.
J Park as well.
Oh yeah, she had. I mean, she did just have a great song with J Park that went #1.
Yeah,
right? It's like, her acting is awesome, so I can understand her enjoying that as much and wanting to do that more. I will say one thing we did not bring up is IU is like literally a saint from what I was reading, because she's donated her philanthropy, like she's donated insane amounts of money to charity. And particularly it seemed like she's donated a lot to like kids who are in similar situations to her from when she was a child, kind of. And then one of the big ones though was, it said during COVID she donated like what was equivalent to like $850,000 or something to like a COVID relief, which is not a small chunk of change to just throw out there. You know, like that is a large amount of money to be donating.
Yeah, in 2020 alone, through the pandemic, she donated enough for, it's actually to like 200 million won worth of different protective clothing and stuff.
Yeah.
And then she also donated 100 million won later that same year for to help the victims.
And I think 100 million won comes out to like 85 grand or something like that in US currency.
Yeah, she donated half a billion to the Korea Pediatric Cancer Foundation in 2021, and the one you're talking about, the 850 million pound one, is of clothing and stuff in 2021 for COVID clinics. She's probably worth. Her estimated worth is now between 31 and 45 million US dollars, and she owns very expensive properties and whatnot, including a fancy house in Cheongdan that she paid for 13 billion won, about 11 billion, and she paid in cash, which is one of the funniest things.
I hope she flexed that by just like rolling in with bags, you know, of like dropping like.
I love the idea of her going, whatever realtor or whatever took the payment for that. I just love her being like, bring it in, boys. And just like a whole convoy of dudes with wheelbarrows starts walking in. Like,
yeah, it is great.
Maybe IU has a distrust of banks from her childhood and keeps all her money sewn into mattresses.
She just has like gold bars under the floor or something. That'd be hilarious.
But she definitely always thinks of others. when she
Well,
spends.
I
She's
read stuff where she talks kind of about that situation she was in as a kid, and then you would think some people may grow up, make a lot of money from that situation, and then just be very in their own world, you know. But she clearly cares about other people who have the same kind of situation going on for them enough to donate insane amounts of money to it. So you can tell she's a really good person, which was awesome. Everything as I was researching IU, I was like, you sometimes when you read about someone you really like, you start to learn things you don't like about them. But I would never learned anything. As I was reading about IU, I was like, wow, IU's amazing. Like, you know,
Yeah.
like, and the more I was learning about her, I was like, wow, this person is awesome.
She actually was in a movie in 2019 called Shades of the Heart. It seemed like she played the leading female
She's
role.
surprisingly in a
It's
lot more
small.
acting stuff than I knew. Because Persona had been the first thing I watched in Hotel de Luna, but she's in way more stuff than I thought.
Yeah. And yeah, she's done tour spots in Malaysia, Thailand, Indonesia as well, but never outside of Asia. But yeah, I've mentioned this before, but IU is literally everywhere in South Korea, and while I think the image of Korea to the world now, I think you can put perhaps 4 or 5 key figures as what represents South Korea to the outside world. I think one would be BTS, one would be Bong Joon-ho, one would be Son Heung-min, footballer.
I know who he is.
Maybe
Yeah, Tottenham.
one would be Faker, League of Legends player. And one would be Kim Yuna, the figure skater. Though I guess that's more of the older wave. She obviously is not active anymore. But in Korea, IU is probably the figure that people would say first when you think of. If you say to any Korean person, "Hey, think of a singer, think of a celebrity."
If I use from my country, that would be a celebrity I'm very proud of. You know, like that's like
that's what it is when it comes down to it. That the Koreans are immensely proud of IU, and they're immensely proud to be from the same country as IU. They're immensely proud to have IU as a figure in a public figure, and consequently, she's everywhere. You cannot walk down a street. I would challenge you to walk down any high street in Korea and not see IU's face at least once.
Which, imagine the advertisement money she's pulling.
Her endorsement, unbelievable amounts of money. Yeah, I know that through working with Chamisul Soju, she sent like after Palette, she sent G-Dragon a fridge full of it as a Christmas present.
Just calls him up, hey, I need a fridge.
Her and J Park kept fighting because J Park has his own soju as well, so they kept fighting. He was like, hey, I'll send you some good soju for once, and she was like, what the fuck did you just say about us?
Like, that's pretty funny.
And they were like commenting this on each other's Instagram. Just pretty funny. Yeah, so yeah, but I mean, it seems like the sky is really the limit for her, and I am fascinated to see if she ever does. I think it would be a real shame if at whatever point in her career she decides to call it on being an active musician and winds down, which hopefully will not be for many years to come. If she's never done a world tour, if she's never done a show in America or Europe or something like that, because I would love to see. Not because I'm wanting her to be a world star and like be promoted in the same way as like, you know, as BTS or Blackpink or whatever, but because I do feel like you could put her on a Good Morning America or whatever, and she could talk and be herself and get by, and it would be interesting to see what the reaction to that would be. But that's not what I want her to do. I just want her to know. I think
as the genre K-pop is getting so much bigger constantly, she's such an important part of music in Korea. I just can't see in the future, I could totally see her being really big internationally because I feel like she's really important musically there. And as people discover South Korean music more and more, it seems like it's going to be hard to not discover IU. Like,
She is.
like,
She's the idol's idol. You know,
yeah.
like so many of the famous idols of today and futures to come they all will cite IU as a chief role model, as an inspiration and a reasoning behind becoming a singer.
I think she has way more international fans than she thinks. I think if she did a show in the
Yeah,
US, it would have a large amount of people. Like,
yeah, for sure. I think the same would be true for Europe as well.
mm-hmm.
Obviously, it's harder to do Europe because like you have to pick a country. Like
Yeah.
do Germany, it's roughly in the middle.
Yeah.
People can come, but yeah, it's it'd be interesting to see, and I do hope that she does it at some point, hopefully with when COVID winds down, if COVID ever winds down, that she'll consider something like that, because it would just be cool for her. I think it would be a good experience for her as well. I think she would, realizing how popular. I mean, how could it ever be bad realizing that you're famous around the world?
Yeah, I undoubtedly think she could easily have a world tour,
Yeah.
and like everywhere. Like, I don't imagine. I think by now, especially by now, like with the recent Lilac and everything, I think she definitely has enough international fan base to do a full world tour.
And I've often thought as well in regards to her acting, you know, that given her like you know, her what's the best way of saying this? Her the variety of ways in which she can present herself, like the different styles that she can act in, the fact that she is capable of in English as well. She could easily blow up in the same kind of way that someone like Hoyeon Jung did, if she gets the right kind of role. Like
the
if
Squid
she ended up,
you're talking about, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
So like if she ends up in a show like Squid Game, which has that huge blow up in the West, you could see IU getting some kind of
No, I definitely,
up,
I agree. Yeah, especially
I mean,
just if someone sees IU, like enough people, they're just like, oh, like, who's that? Like, especially because that was kind of the thing that happened with Squid Games. Everyone was like, who is that? when they were watching Squid Games. But yeah,
because the thing I was saying for this was that Hoyeon Jung was cast in a new series, and it's like,
wait, she just won like an Emmy.
Like, I know it's nuts. It's like out directed by like Alfonso Cuarón, and like it has like it's just like Western actors, and she's in it. It's like, and
her Instagram was her first.
Squid Game was her first role. But the point is, obviously, a big part of the reason why Hoyeon Jung blew up, obviously not just because she was great in Squid Game, and she absolutely was, but it's because she's stupidly good looking. And I feel like if more people looked at IU's face, they would be like, "Holy shit!"
No, yeah,
and that would be a factor. As kind of shallow as that is, but unfortunately, the Western world most of the world is very shallow when it comes.
No, it is true. If there was a big show like Squid Games and IU was in it, everyone would be going, "Who is I? Like, who is that?" Like that.
And I feel like shows like Hotel de Luna are so good that they could easily have been huge hits if they were Netflix shows,
Yeah. That genre is harder to make a big deal like Squid Games than something like Squid Games, to me, where it's like, I feel like the concept of Squid Games is something you can make a lot bigger as a show in the West.
Hotel de Luna was still very K-drama, and then it did lots of
that's what I mean. Like, it's still
yeah. But anyway, I think, like I said, the sky really is the limit for her, and it's just where she wants to call it a limit, I think, is what will decide that. And I think that's probably the most enviable position that any celebrity could ever hope to be in.
No, yes, she said in an interview, there was a great interview she did with her brother, And she said he asked her, "Have you accomplished your goals?" And she was like, "Yeah," or whatever. Like, she very casually
Yeah.
said, "Yeah," but then she was also like, "I also want to work harder and do even cooler stuff," which I thought was like a great. I thought it was just great though that she was like, "Yeah, I accomplished my goals or whatever, but I
Yeah.
want to do more still or whatever." And there was even a funny part where her brother said, "I want to be as like influential as you," and then she was like, "Well, good luck with that." Basically, like, she said, "Go for it, try it," but she said, "Good luck, because I'm also gonna keep working hard." She told him or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's like,
Just
uh,
since I just found it, that new show that Jung Hoyeon is in is called Disclaimer, and it stars Kate Blanchett, Kevin Kline, and Sacha Baron Cohen, which is
Kate
peculiar
Blanchett, Kate
group of
Blanchett,
people.
man, that's a massive actress to be in a show.
A-list, right? Like
Yeah,
big as you could get, really.
it'll be interesting to see what that's about.
Yeah.
I feel like we've said, we always talk about how goddess IU, and we always talk about everything.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like we said as much as we can about that, but I do want to still share. Me and Oliver made a top 5 list, both of us. Let me switch this like this, and let me scroll this real quick so it's showing everything. And I do. We'll play like, what do you think? Like, maybe like favorite parts of song, or like first 30 seconds of each one or something like that.
Yeah, a first chorus or
First
something like
chorus or
that.
something. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Obviously, for anyone who knows me, Jam Jam is my jam. So that's like an obvious number one for me. And I guess, but the best way for us to do it, I would say, is start from 5 and 5 for each of us.
Mm-hmm.
So I picked Ending Scene, and there's for me, the piano in this, I really love like the riff that's played on piano, but then there's also a very cool I have like G-Ray Payne's theme from Naruto that was playing.
You're about to blast it midway through, just completely change it up.
I don't even remember what I was doing when that was playing, but here, for anyone who hasn't heard Ending Scene, the beginning piano is what sells this one for me.
안녕 오랜만이야 물음표 없이 참 너다운 목소리
I mean, you just can't go wrong with that.
정해진 규칙처럼 준 문가에 늘 똑같은 네 자리 제대로 잘 먹어 다 지나가니까 예전처럼 잠도 잘 자게
Yeah, strings coming in.
진심으로 빌게 너는 다 행복할 자격이 있어 그런 말은 하지마 제발 그 말이 더 아픈 거 알잖아 사랑해줄 거라면 다 뭐야 어떤 맘을 준 건지 너는 모를 거야.
So
Oh,
the whole thing is perfect, but it's got that cool riff and softly in the beginning, just piano or voice, but that like 50-second mark forward too, and strings start coming in, and she's got that little
And
piano.
that
run
really
with it.
is right. I feel like IU is at her best, right? Especially when she's showing like her different, like she has like such like a soft voice, but then she puts more power into it.
Yeah.
And like how she switches from her like lower register there, and then she goes into like a falsetto. When
That
she
little
plays
run
the high
she has
notes,
too, like
and then the run goes back.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's like her voice is like a piano in its own way. In that, it's
Yeah.
beautiful.
The ending scene is a song that displays a lot of like what is great about IU's vocals.
Mm-hmm.
So then for you is Lilac number 5?
So the reason why there's 11 songs on here is because we both put My C in our
That's right,
respective
that's
top
right, that's
fives.
right.
So then we
Gotcha.
decided to both do an honorable mention.
Should-
So my honorable mention was Lost Child, and yours was
That's
Lilac.
right. Okay.
So my number 5 was Love Poem. But
Okay.
if you want to do the honorable mentions, we can do that. But maybe Love Poem would fit because it's kind of a similar
Yeah.
song.
Let's do Love Poem, and then we can go to honorable mentions after we
Okay.
get our.
After we get our feelings on.
You might see tears on stream.
누구를 위해 누군가 기도하고 있나 봐 숨죽여 쓴 사랑 시간 낮게 들리는 듯해 너에게로 선명히 날아가 늦지 않게 자리에 닿기를 I'll be there 홀로 걷는 너의 뒤에 Singing till the end 그치지 않을 이 노래 아주 잠시만 귀 기울여봐 유난히 긴 밤을 걷는 널 위해 부를게
Dude, her vocals in headphones are just an experience on
I
its own, but
know.
especially like these kind of like high quality like Sony ones where you just have like
Yeah.
that, and it's just piano and her voice. Like it's great.
Yeah, bliss. The thing with these kinds of songs, it's like if it wasn't 3:15 in the morning for me, I would want to like, play them all the way through because each one is like, it's not. It's so much more than just the verse.
Yeah,
chorus,
and there's
verse,
changes in
they
these
always-
songs that
they
are
build up, and there's so much more that happens. Like one of my favorite moment in Love Poem is like right after the choir bit comes in, you hear like all the instruments whatever goes away and you just hear her go like
yeah.
obviously in tune and as opposed to that, which wasn't, but her saying just like her voice, literally the word voice, and then like here I am, and it comes back, and then all of the instruments come back in like really triumphantly, and it just like reaches a climax.
Yeah, you can't really
well
give an IU song the whole way through is an experience, especially when she does a key shift sometimes.
Yeah.
And like it's
There's a lot of the songs on here. I feel like ending scene, Love Poem, Above the Time, My C.
yeah, my C's ending.
All of those need full attention. So
Yes.
I implore you, if you have not heard them, to please.
I can
go
share
and
this
listen to them
playlist in the link of this video for anyone who wants to
Yeah.
check one of these songs out. So now, okay, so this one, this is like if IU did a Talking Head song to me. Like that's why I love
Yeah.
it so much. You
all.
know,
I
like
can-
that's.
I can honestly, I can see that actually.
So for anyone who hasn't heard this song has like a chorus that I think about like every week. It comes up in my head, just like so. I don't even want to describe it. Just listen.
I'm such a sapphire 가라앉지 않게 비틀거리다 가풍덩 빠지더라도 구명복 따윈 줄 알아
That little guitar.
I'm such a sapphire
Yeah.
You know, you can hear
지는 건 난 못 참아
Now that you said that about
제일 높은 파도 올라타타라 쫓아와 해일과 함께 사라질 타이밍 건 내가 골라 무슨 소리 겁이 나긴 재밌지 뭐
It's that
in the
very
Fuck Me
part.
episode, when we talked about using your voice in such a unique way, like we cited Den as an example of someone who does that, and she does that a lot. Like she
Yeah.
can make her voice used in interesting ways, different sounds and stuff.
She can make her voice so enjoyable just on its own like that. But
Yeah.
that part is like the Talking Heads part to me, like the shit and just like the way that
Is it David
rolls.
Byrne something her hair?
Yeah, dude.
Sensible, like...
I instantly think of
Yeah.
I love the that's one of the this song's like the perfect showing of what we were talking about, like the stylistic differences, you know, that she can do from what we were just listening to that. You know, it's different.
Any scene in Love Poems are very similar songs, and then suddenly we have like it sounds like an Acme song.
Yeah,
which is absolutely not a criticism.
No, Acme makes great music, and that's now it makes so much sense when you told me that he wrote that. Chanhyuk.
Chanhyuk, yeah.
Chanhyuk, right? Yeah. So for you, we have now Above the Time, which is the continuation of You and I, right?
Yeah.
Do you want to say anything before it, or should we play it and then talk about it?
I said enough about it when I talked
No,
about it.
yeah, gotcha.
Refer to the aforementioned. But it is another one of those songs which has the way her voice is like staccato in it almost.
서로를 닮아 기울어진 삶 소원을 담아 차오르는 달 하려다만 괄호 속의 말 이제야 어디도 닿지 않는 나의 닷넌 영원히 도착할 수 없는 섬 같아 헤매던 날 이제야 기록하지 않아도
That layering.
내가 널 전부 기억할
What a great
테니까
harmonized
기다려 기어이 우리가 만나면 시간의 테두리 바깥에서 과거를 밟지 않고서 온다면 숨이 차게 춤을 추겠어
God, those strings being brought into it. Her voice is like so pleasant that it's literally like being wrapped in like a warm blanket sometimes when you have like the headphones cranked and you like it's insane.
For this, you have to humor me and just skip to like 2 minutes 30 because like, we need to hear the jig.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. I don't know.
숨이 차게 춤을 추겠어
We have this lovely little descending piano, and you could go anywhere in this song, but you just go here.
I just imagine how you doing a full opera singer brought in.
드디어
They're just gone.
기다림에
What's
I swear
amazing
there's a hurdy-gurdy in there at the start.
what's amazing is that it works. You know what I mean?
It works brilliantly. I can't. you can, before you listened, I listened to that, I was like, oh, this could go into any kind of typical bridge from here, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was never expecting it to go there, but now I can't. I don't want to hear anything else. I couldn't imagine doing that.
It's like Flogging Molly showed up for like 30 seconds in this song.
Yeah, but yeah.
No, it's great, and it's one of those things that when you have something like that in a song, that makes it so interesting to re-listen.
Yeah, like you're waiting for it. You go 2 minutes into that song and you're waiting to have that moment. Yeah.
What was Oh, so I have,
EP.
you know, Yellow CARD, and if anyone doesn't know this song, that's a crime. So I'm just gonna say that right now.
I think even most non-fans probably know this.
Yeah.
Know this one.
I feel like we talked about this one too, but we're gonna.
Balance. It's me, 나예요, 다를까 없이. 요즘엔 뭔가요, 내 갓색. 탐색하는 불빛. Scanner. 오늘은 몇 점인가요?
Love this so much.
옷을 좋아한담. 기분을 할 수 없는 표정은 뭐람. 내가 달라진 건 아마 스트레스 때문인가. 걱정야, 참. Yellow CARD. 이선 넘으면 침범이야, babe. 매너는 여기까지 is mine. Please skip the line. Hello, stupid ID. 그선 넘으면 정색이야, babe. Stop it, 거리 유지해, 'cause we don't know. Come on with an anything.
Yeah, it's so good. Like just the lyrics too, like the hello stupid ID, you know, da 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 beep, like the little teeth sound, like I just love it.
Stupid ID.
Yeah. It's so good. Like it's one of those songs, like we already said earlier, like stylistically IU is like the only one who can make that song. Like there's can't really see another artist doing it like she does. So you have we talked. Sorry,
let's do the honorable mentions before we do the top two.
Gotcha.
I think.
So Lost Child
and Lilac, yeah. So her debut song.
Yeah,
2008.
2008, man. It feels like a world away.
Yeah. What? Obviously, there's like I said, there are parts of this which sound like any IU song, but the synth line in the chorus for this is so of its time. If anything, it was a little old-fashioned in the time. But her voice sounds
modern,
young.
like.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Cool guitar riff being brought in. I actually really like the way the guitar riff is brought in.
Yeah,
in that,
it's
like,
a really well done song, and I don't feel like it gets enough credit. For what it is.
The synth, even though it's that like, well, I actually enjoy some of that like, old like
yeah,
like the stuttering.
I just love it. Someone's on a keyboard and just playing that.
It's like some of the synth you hear like FX from that, like kind of like.
Yeah.
It's cool though.
Yeah.
Lost Child. So obviously another song, the other honorable mention, one everyone should probably know, which is
Yes.
Lilac. I feel like even people who might not be a fan of IU know this song. This first bar, like,
눈이 따끔해 눈물이 고여도 꼭 참을래 내 맘 막힌 비밀 쓸어 노릇거울에 넣어두고서 영원히 돼감을 순간이니까 우리 둘의 마지막 페이지를 잘 부탁해 어느 작별이 보다 완벽할까 Love me all till spring 거칠은 날 goodbye 이런 걸 말이 어울려 녀고운 잎 같은 안녕 하얀 우리 봄날의 클라이마 얼마나 기쁜 일이야 Love me all till spring 봄바람처럼 Love me all till spring 봄바람처럼 기분이
dude, the whisper voice, like the love me
Yeah.
all till spring, like that tone of voice is just.
It's like in that chorus alone, she has like 3 different voices.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
like then she ends with that like that belt after like it's not even really a belt because it seems like she does it so effortlessly. But it's like you have those whispery,
Mm-hmm.
like really breathy vocals, and you have like a kind of what passes as her normal voice, and you have her like with power, like yeah.
I love the like over the top retro like drum roll,
Yeah.
like each time, you know.
Also, special shout out to the saxophone that comes in at the end of
Mm.
at the end of the final chorus.
The-
It's
the-
very so just like a little bit, not overdoing it, just a little bit of sax.
She fits
Yeah.
that like funk style guitar bass together so good when that happens like that. Her tonally, she just blends so good with that style, like the
Yeah.
like that kind of pacing, you know. She has
Yeah.
the calming like effect to it. I don't know, it's weird. It just works.
Todd again.
Todd, I'm just gonna put a picture of Todd Howard every time I say that.
Get him in the thumbnail.
So now we have our top twos, right? Which
Uh-huh.
23, which we are. Sorry, I guess I should go. No, yeah, we're on 23.
Yeah.
Which we did talk about quite a bit. We talked about kind of the scandal of it with. This was from Chat-Shire.
Yep.
Yeah. This was from Chat-Shire. That's right. And this was the one I was saying, even though it's kind of a bullshit quote about her being solely credited for the first time or whatever, but she did get writing credits at least around this
Yes.
time. Yes. 23.
아무튼 이 스리는 수수께끼 퀘스천 목에 맞춰봐요 응? 아무튼 이 스리 틀리지 말기 넌 없이 예민해요 맞춰봐 한 발 휘숨을 쑥좀 아가씨 때가 났네 따끈 척해도 적당히 믿어줘 얄미운 숨을 쑥 아직 한참 멀었다 yeah 널 잘한 척해도 대충 속아줘 난 그래 확실히 지금이 좋아요 아니야 사실은 빼지고 싶어 아 알겠어요 난 사랑이 하고 싶어 돈은 없는 이 벌레 맞춰봐 어느 쪽이게 얼굴만 보면 몰라 손만 가다른 표정을 짓는 일 아주 간단하거든 사실은 나도 몰라 애초에 나는 단 한 줄의 거짓말로 쓴 적이 없거든 여우인 척 가는 고민 척 가는 여 아니면
Hear that bass line?
모든 한쪽을 골라 생각해보니 좋아지는 거 이제 익숙하거든 Check it out
I love the high. I love the with the hi hat.
Yeah. Just a little hi-hat run. The lyrics in that are so funny. Like it's like a fox pretending to be a bear, pretending to be a fox, or something.
Is that from like an old Korean tale or something that she does the quote of it from?
I don't know.
It could be something maybe from like a fable or something.
Yeah,
like
it sounds something like that, right?
The bass in the chorus is so good in that song. The little bass lines going on in the background, the boom, bam, boom, bam, when it goes at one point, like that little octave.
So everything in that song comes together so beautifully. Like, yeah.
Yeah, in our list, you could hear how good she is at being like slow ballad and being so beautiful with that tone, and then also somehow working so good at such an upbeat tempo, which not most vocalists are not always good at so many different tempos of music. Whereas it doesn't matter the tempo, she can do it. Like it doesn't.
And I've seen people say like, "Oh, I'm not into IU. I don't like IU that much because they think of her as only like a ballader, or that they think her music is all like sad and slow." And I'm like, because they know You and I or Through the Night or whatever, and that's how they see her wholly. And it's like, no, you're missing out on a whole lot of other...
Excuse me, Jam Jam is a song. It does exist.
We'll get there. We're almost there.
So now my number 2 was also one that was on your list, and that's why we did honorable mentions. Me and Oliver both picked My C as an all-time favorite of ours. I put it number 2 only to Jam Jam because Jam Jam's so special to me, but this could easily be a number 1 for me.
For me, it was number 3. Yeah, but this song is... You really do have to listen to this whole thing to fully appreciate it. Like, it's...
Well, I'm gonna play the first bit, and then I'm gonna go to that high note, because that high note is like...
We can, because we don't need to, because Jam Jam and Sogakadon both have...
Yeah, we can play this whole song. We can
let's play all of My C.
Yeah.
I'll just be really tired tomorrow.
시간이 지나도 아물지 않는 일들이 있지. 내가 날 온전히 사랑하지 못해서 맘이 가난한 밤이야. 거울 속에 마주친 얼굴이 어색해서 습관처럼 조용히 눈을 감아. 밤이 되면 서둘러 내일로 가고 싶어. 수많은 소원 아래 매일 다른 꿈을 꾸던 아이는 그렇게 오랜 시간 겨우 내가 되려고 아팠던 걸까. 쌓이는 하루만큼 더 멀어져. 우리는 화해할 수 없을 것 같아. 나아지지 않을 것 같아. 어린 날 내 맘엔 영원히 가물지 않는 바다가.
That other melody on the piano right now. Oh my
I know.
god, man, like...
It just adds enough material to make so the verses aren't the same.
흔적만이
You know.
남아.
And then it gives something else to be
희미한
resolved.
그곳엔 설렘으로 차오르던 나의 숨소리와
There was so much resolution in that first chorus.
Yeah.
And there has to be
위로
new stuff to be
선선히
resolved.
부는 바람. 파도가 되어 어디로든 달려가고
The
싶어.
voice is quite...
작은 두려움 아래 천천히 두 눈을 뜨면 세상은 그렇게 모든 순간 내게로 와 눈부신 선물이 되고 숱하게 의심하던 나는 그제야 나에게 대답할 수 있을 것 같아.
The key change. Or the... That's just... The tail end of that note, the way it ends, you're like, it's literally like just a perfect song. Like, like,
it's hard to argue against any of that. It's like everything in that song is like so well placed. You know,
you
like
can tell there's...
everything should be there and is there for a good reason.
There was so much thought like put into it. You
Yeah.
know, like especially because like the each like the second verse has so much more like musical elements being added in with the instruments, and then but the way they give you so much building up to that high note, and then they take it away. Like,
yeah,
you
like
know,
you could have ended. You could have just done like that violin descent afterwards and kind of found an ending there, but instead we have her go straight down into this like that low register and then end it just on a final word with nothing else. It's like, it's like that's like I said, that's like masterpiece level songwriting.
And there's so many little moments of things like the choir, and then the guitar is even brought in very interestingly just to do like a little like run, and it's gone after that, and then it's like, but yeah, the piano to me is so like perfect in this song, especially the way they change it little and little like in different parts. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's like I say, it's just that everything in there serves its purpose so well. There's nothing frivolous. There's nothing that overstays its welcome or is overdone. It's like, and like I said, between the first and the second verse, it's like they add more stuff so they can resolve it in the chorus, and you can add more and make the chorus more grand. But then you feel it still building, and you're like, where can we be building to next? Because like we're already at like full orchestra soaring chorus, right? Like, where can we go from here? And then she hits that like, and it's like, you're like, oh, okay, like we're at this place. But then she goes to that insane high note at the end, which like, you know, the fact that she did, and you don't often hear IU sing like that. You know, like a lot of her songs, she doesn't need to, and it's not always in the style of the song for her to be belting a note like that. It's not as high as it's Good Day. Good Day is like F#5 or something at the end, but like it doesn't feel as strained.
No,
as
it feels
Day,
more in her natural vocal register.
And it really feels like it fits. Whereas Good Days kind of felt like it was. All right, now here's the thing.
Note or
like look at what we can do. It was a bit more showy, a bit more gimmicky. Whereas this it feels so natural and feels such like a triumphant.
There's like you can feel like the emotional tail end of that note too, like as it ends. It's perfect. I don't. Yeah, like my C easily could have been number one, but Jam's too special for me not to put it number one. But yeah, my C is a perfect song in my opinion, like all the way through. Perfect songwriting.
And it's who was it? Was it Ji-yoon, I think, in Girls Planet who
Oh my god, when they covered it in Girls Planet.
But like I remember as soon as I saw that this song was going to be on there, I was like, oh boy, someone is going to have to fucking nail that. And the sad part is, of course, is that Ji-yoon is a great singer and she was nailing it in practice. But it shows how difficult it is that you just
there's just certain artists
do that easily without real skill.
There's just certain artists singing their music is just an insane difficulty level, you know, like especially when it has a note like that.
Yeah. As a kind of a final note on this one, I think while I've placed other songs higher than it, I do think that this is what I think is IU's best song. Like objectively speaking, I subjectively prefer other songs and I listen to them more often. I think that's because I'm not always in the mood for the 5-minute experience that my C is. You know, sometimes I want to vibe for 3 minutes instead.
For sure,
but I think objectively, it's like it is probably what I would say is her best song.
I could agree with that. Yeah, it has everything that you could want in it. Just like, and it's such a great display of her as an artist.
Yeah. So
your number one is
Seokyeokdong.
I'm glad you said it.
Yeah. Seokyeokdong.
Any notes about this one?
Shitloads. So this is a preface to Sotaeji and Boy's fame, his album Quiet Nights, his 9th album, his 5th solo album. Obviously, for those who don't know Sotaeji and Boys were arguably the pioneer of what would be K-pop. Sotaeji with Yang Hyun-suk, who's better known as YG of YG Entertainment, kicking about in the early mid-90s and really pioneering the idea of mixing genres together and doing a lot of different stuff. It's kind of more, they did it more as like a rebellious thing, but it set a lot of the standards for what would be K-pop musically speaking, but not the idol image. That was courtesy of SM. So he did this collaboration with IU. She did in secret. This is back in 2014, so it was while she was really big, obviously, but it was at least she was more able to do it a bit hush hush.
Yeah.
And they both released a version of this song. So Taeji released one with him singing, and IU released one with her singing. Obviously, I picked IU's one. And the video depicts a relationship between the two of them. Not the two of them. It depicts a relationship between a boy and a girl.
I know what you mean. Yeah,
playing the role they're singing behind. Basically, it's set during the military dictatorship period of South Korea. So Taeji said that he wanted the song to be about his own childhood, but he's always been afraid to sing of his childhood because his childhood is in the 70s, 80s in Korea, where it was under this period of military dictatorship, where there were a lot of harsh rules, curfews, and arrests and things, and it's about a young couple who fall in love and they meet after curfew and so on, and in this area of Seoul called Seokyeokdong, which is kind of in northern central Seoul. I've actually been not to Seokyeokdong itself, but I've been to the area, the gu that it, like the wider area that it's part of. And it's the guy eventually gets caught being out from curfew and is taken by the secret police and is never seen again. And then it's the girl being like, "I'm now walking alone."
That video sounds super familiar. You had to have shown me that before.
Yeah, I think I showed it to you pretty early on in one of the lives. um the there was like the secret police headquarters, I guess you could call it. Basically there was like a puppet. No, there was like a government that exists. I can't want to go too much into Korean history and politics. There was like a government up front that was like a kind of, it's kind of like a show government. It was like, look at this democratic government that we have, and it's like doing all of the. But really, there was like I think there was like the Defense Shadow Council, something like, it sounds like a fucking badass evil villain organization, and its headquarters was in Seogyeokdong, which is part of why they chose to name the song after that. So it's basically about that. It's about love in a very difficult time for Korea, and it's certainly a time in which So Taiji himself was growing up, and then of course IU is kind of in that generation of the people who you can say could have met and fallen in love at the tail end of the dictatorship, and then had started having children in the years immediately following it.
Gotcha.
So yeah.
No, that's actually done. That makes a lot more sense. I'm sure anyone listening would not have known any of that information otherwise. But so it's like,
I like it just because the style of music that it is extremely fitting for me. It's like it's a synth pop song, but it's done. I remember showing you a live of it, because like thinking that it was like all done through MIDI, but it's actually like some crazy like electric drum kit, and the dude like is actually fully like playing it and somehow making the sounds on it, and I'm like, I don't know what that is, but I want it. I want to play on that. Yeah.
So I want to make sure I know how to say it correctly. It's Seogyeokdong.
So the first syllable is so, and then Seogyeokdong.
Seogyeokdong.
Yeah.
Okay.
Seogyeokdong.
When I read it, I want to pronounce that G so badly, but all right, here we go. This is Oliver's number 1 IU pick. So it's interesting. She harmonizes in like a Cranberries kind of style in some of the like verses. So it's very interesting to me to hear IU sing like that, like it's like some of those higher with the low harmony like that.
Yeah, Cranberries is actually pretty good.
Particularly the verse ones like made me think that like, well, I was like, oh wow, never mind. It just gave me that feeling of like when I would hear some of the harmonies in Cranberries sometimes from like a long time ago.
Dolores Riordan.
Yeah, that's her name. Which she's an amazing. That's like one of the most unique voices that ever existed.
Yeah. I can definitely see that comparison. I think this song is certainly one I've had like for me over a long time. Like it's one of I can't even remember how I first came across it, but it's only been one of the ones that I think I like this dating back to like around the palette time, I guess. It must have
So
been around that
2017.
time. Yeah, I mean, it came out in 2014, but that was when I came across it. So I've had it since before all of the other stuff that came after that. And I think one that doesn't, because it's not on an album or anything, it doesn't get the attention I feel it deserves. One that other people don't even know exists.
No, it's a really
as part
interesting
of her catalog.
song. The mix of that like synth sound with kind of the singing style she's doing, it feels different from like IU's normal. Like it was interesting. I think that's why I had to find like a reference vocalist for it, because it felt different from IU's normal style.
Yeah, and there's some reverb on her voice, and it's like, and she sounds like, well, she's sounding mournful, right? She's both, it's like nostalgia, but also in a grief kind of way, and because that's what it's about. So it's yeah, but I think it's a hidden treasure, I think, out of in IU's catalog. And Sartage's version is good too, of course.
The synth sound is one of
those
those MIDIs tones I really enjoy. That like
yeah, there's like that bass like, but I love whatever that electric drum kit thing. It's not a drum kit, obviously. It's like some electric percussion instrument.
Yeah, the one doing the
lead line.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but I love it, and it looks really cool when they did it live.
It has that that electric snare in there too, like the one. But yeah, it's cool. I'll have to listen to that whole song again. I know I've heard it, but it's interesting. It's very different feeling from a normal the norm of like IU's music, if there is a norm of of her catalog. So for anyone, this should be no surprise what I have at number one for anyone who knows my particular taste. But it's I guess, like we both said, My Sea is like so amazing that I could easily call that like her number one song. But the reason Jam Jam, so when you were talking about it earlier, people who maybe discard IU because they think, oh, she just does kind of ballads, or maybe like just like that style. I think I at first had, before I heard the song, had that kind of image of IU as well. And then Jam Jam was like the first song I heard of hers where I was like, what the fuck? Like when you know, just like this is IU or something. Because before that, I think I'd only heard kind of ballad like music from her. It was very early on into me checking IU out that I heard Jam Jam. And then it was, because I'm not saying like it was a long time of me listening to IU before Jam Jam came along and then I realized that. But yeah, once I heard Jam Jam, I was sold. I was like, okay, she's doing this and that, you know, over here.
Well, would it even have been this or BB would have been her most like recent release when you started like the channel proper, like it was mid 2018, right? Like it would have been just before BB. Maybe then, I don't know. Was that on your channel? Did you react to that? I can't remember.
I can't remember either, but
and then maybe that after the live started, it went from there.
It was definitely in a live that I saw Jam Jam, and then was just from I remember because at first I couldn't remember what the song was called, and I was always just asking you guys, what is that song that goes na, 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 in the beginning, you know, like, and it just, there's something about it that's the beginning's obviously great, but like let's just play it. I mean the verse and everything in the song is perfect to me.
알만한 사람끼리 이 정도 거짓말에 속아주는 게 아닌가요? 될래 그깟 멍청이 뭐든 해봐요. 우리 생각할 겨를조차 주지 마요. 설탕이 필요해. 난 몸에 나쁜 게 좀 필요해. 뜨뜻미지근한 건 그만해. 막 솔직하겠다고 그게 뭐라고.
Give me some sugar, something fake.
진심이란 게 뭐야? 난 상관 안 해. 둘 다 알잖아. 곧 끝날 텐데 식기 전에 날 부디 한껏 녹여줘.
There's just like there's so many moments in that song that always make me want to re-listen to it. But there's like the da 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 da, the like the lead into it. There's just such a unique style to that song to me, and vocally like that intro. It's just like I can't even imagine anyone but IU doing like that, you know, like that intro. But the verse when that kicks in, it starts going dun dun dun. It just I love that so much when it first kicks into that verse.
It's because it's the first song on the album, right? It's I feel like it's very like alluring. It's almost seductive in a way, like it. When she goes down as that low, like husky, like she's really drawing you in and wanting you to hear more.
The end of the chorus too, the different voices coming layering together, like the tonally.
Anytime she's layering her own voice with herself, I'm just like, yes, I want to hear this die.
Pan that fully into my ear holes right now, just like
yeah. So sometimes it's not enough, and like I need the song inside me.
I want like you know, there's a Queen song, not Bohemian Rhapsody, but where they literally just becomes completely Freddie Mercury's voice layering over and over again in the middle. It's from the same album as Bohemian Rhapsody, but
this is probably the third time that we mentioned it.
Yes, but I want a song of just like that where IU just has a middle of it that is all her voice layering in different ways.
The one for me that I'm reminded of is
the Prophet Song is the name of that
by
song.
Animal Collective. The Purple Bottles like bridge, it's like a huge bridge section where they take away all of the other instruments and stuff, and they just have like bass vocals and then just like just like all these like high and like mid register vocals just popping up and down, and then they like build this refrain over and over again. It's like when artists are doing that with their voice, I'm just give it to me, give it all to me.
Her voice is so ethereal that's the next thing I want musically from IU, is that a middle of a song or something that is just completely her voice layering like that's the only thing I haven't heard yet. That's
okay, Gian, if you're listening, that's what we want.
This is the one thing you haven't done. So I will it's funny, both our number one picks I feel like would be something no one would assume is someone's number one IU song. You know, I feel like I wonder if that's just because we have particularly strange taste or something, but like I feel like if anyone was asking like, oh, what's your favorite IU song, and we said one of these picks, people might be like, what? You know, or something like. But yeah, it's just there's something about something you gravitate towards that makes a song your favorite, you know.
Yeah. And if anyone is looking at the playlist on the left and wondering what's been added since we did the top 10s, Bagpipes of Scotland, 100 Miles Per Hour, and Red Velvet discography. We actually are thoroughly intending to do all of those at once. We're planning a road trip to Scotland in which we will drive exclusively at 100 miles per hour whilst blasting all of Red Velvet's discography.
Wait till you guys see what's in that 100 miles per hour playlist, all right? It's purely songs for driving at 100 miles per hour. I always forget that I have all those playlists just sitting over to the left there, and I have like one that's Ghost in the Shell's entire like OSTs or whatever for
Epic War Music being in
that's my caps. Workout playlist, all right, don't worry about that one.
the fact that it's in all caps really adds a lot. I think
I boxed to my bagpipes playlist, all right, that's the
I boxed today to like pop punk. Like they were playing like MCR and like Blink-182 and stuff. I wasn't mad about it.
At least it's upbeat enough. You know, like, the drums are quick enough to keep you going.
Yeah, it did the trick.
Well, I will link this playlist in the video, as well as maybe some of the things we talked about, like the interview with her brother and stuff like that. But yeah, that has been our episode about the goddess that is IU, and there's not there's people I jokingly call a goddess, but IU is god tier. All right, it's like there's some people you joke, and then there's some people like IU's on that deity level when we're talking about just incredible musician artist. Like,
yeah, the fact that she's done everything that she's done, and she's like about to turn 29 in international.
She's
age
1
or
month
whatever.
older than me.
Yeah, like, it's insane how much.
I'm not gonna start to compare my life to IU's.
I don't want to. No, I won't do that. But just fact is, we've got a whole lot more to see from her, and it's just like, where on this journey that are we going to go next? And honestly, like being in South Korea is just like it's living in IU's world.
That sounds amazing. Can I want to switch up. I'm gonna switch it up. Temecula, I'm leaving. I'm done with this. Yeah, I don't know what else to say except IU is officially goated, and this has been I'm Honan.
I'm Oliver.